LoveLore Library. Chapter 733. In this information-based era, in many cases, the influence of the internet had even exceeded the traditional media. On the day before Shuya's concert, something like an editorial was published on a famous news website. It made some doubts and speculations about Shuya's endorsement of Lu Weishan jewelry. The person who wrote this article was very sharp, and his ability to distort facts was not ordinary. He was very good at grasping people's psychology and put forward some ideas on some points that were easy to cause misunderstandings. First of all, the issue of the endorsement fee. The author made a very implicit guess about Shuya's endorsement fee. Although he did not say how much Shuya's endorsement fee was, from his tone, XXX's endorsement fee has reached 7 figures, and XXX's reputation is obviously not as good as Shuya's. Then, Shuya's endorsement fee is imaginable. As long as people saw this sentence, they would think that Shuya's endorsement fee was at least 7 figures. Although this guy did not say the obvious words, "Wool comes from a sheep's back," it made people think that this was the meaning. Other than that, he also questioned the effect of Lu Weishan as a brand. The questioning tone between the lines was somewhat obvious. Could it be that the reputation of a jewelry appraiser could increase the value of a piece of jewelry that was similar to other jewelry companies by a few times? In this increase of money, was it the reputation of Lu Weishan, or the reputation of Shuya? Or was it to pay a high advertising endorsement fee? This article was very provocative, and many netizens were the most easily deceived. The situation of people following the crowd was very serious. This article was consciously reposted on many local forums in the province. It immediately caused a huge wave. Under the supportive replies of some people with ulterior motives, most of the netizens blindly began to support the author of this article. They began to denounce Lu Weishan Company. There were all kinds of scoldings, but most of them were words like liar, black-hearted money, and so on. Yang Ming frowned as he finished reading the article on the internet. He casually flipped through the replies at the back and asked Bao Sanli and Zhang Dejuan beside him, what happened? Zhang Dejuan was the local tyrant of the Songjiang advertising industry. He had a very deep relationship with various media and government propaganda. He had just called several familiar local media to delete the article, but the website that originally published the editorial was not registered in this province. Zhang Dejuan's ability was not big enough to cover the sky in the national media. He said with some apprehension, "I have already contacted several local websites. Those who posted and those with provocative replies have banned the IP segment, but we can't do anything about the website in the province. Find out who wrote this article. I will bring people to kill him." Bao Sanli saw that Yang Ming was worried about this matter, so he said angrily, "Forget it. If you go and find trouble with him, it shows that we have a guilty conscience, right?" Yang Ming waved his hand and thought, if I really want to use violence to solve it, then wouldn't it be safer for me to kill him? But this wasn't Yang Ming's way of dealing with the problem. Since he had begun to enter the business world, there would definitely be many opponents in the future. If he met one and killed one, wouldn't he become a homicidal maniac? For some people who crossed his bottom line, killing them represented a punishment. But for this kind of revenge in the business world, if he directly killed people, wouldn't it seem that he was too incompetent? Then should we reduce the price? Zhao Cixi was also a little overwhelmed by this sudden incident. Reduce the price? Why should we reduce the price? If we reduce the price, wouldn't we just fall into the other party's trap? Yang Ming shook his head. If we reduce the price, it will give others something to talk about. This guy may jump out and say it again. From the price before and after, we can see how huge the profit is. This person is obviously targeting us. If I guessed correctly, it was done by Yunguangdou. Ah! It is indeed like this. Zhao Cixi listened to Yang Ming's words and said with some embarrassment. If Yang Ming didn't remind her, then she would definitely adopt this strategy of reducing the price. At that time, it would give others something to criticize. Then we continue to sell at the current price and ignore this article? We definitely have to sell, but we can't ignore it. Yang Ming frowned and said, we still have to fight back. I will find someone to discuss this matter. You should do what you should do. If there is an interview, just say that the chairman is not here. Oh, why are we starting to use this trick? Lin Jiyun thought it was a little funny. Usually, she often saw similar news in the newspaper. When the reporter wanted to interview the person in charge of a certain department, either the phone couldn't be reached, or the person in charge was not here. Now, her company was also playing this trick. Sometimes we have to use it. If we talk too much, people will catch some subtle errors in the wording, and it will start to expand infinitely. It is better to keep silent. Although there will still be many people who doubt whether we are speechless, it is better than speaking too much and making mistakes. Yang Ming patted the back of his head helplessly. I didn't expect that there would be a lot of troubles in running a company. It turns out that in those YY novels, as long as the protagonist throws in money, the company can become strong and big. When it is time to do it myself, it is not the case at all. Chapter 734. Yang Ming sighed slightly. He didn't expect the company to have trouble with its first business. During this time, Yang Ming had already had a very detached sense of superiority. His identity, at least in Songjiang, should belong to the kind of person who could do whatever he wanted. Not to mention the underworld identity, his identity on the surface was already very superior. The young master of Mingyang Heavy Industry. Although Mingyang had not yet produced an actual product, Yang Dehai had obviously become a popular person in the city. He was very popular in both the business world and the political world. At least, Yang Ming's identity as a second-generation heir allowed him to do whatever he wanted, not to mention the underworld identity and the identity of an assassin. But in that case, there was no difference between him and Wang Jitao. Even Yang Ming could be more badass than Wang Jitao. However, this wasn't what Yang Ming wanted to do. These could only be evil thoughts. Bullying people and tyrannizing women ran rampant in the campus. If he really wanted to do it, Yang Ming still couldn't do it. He wanted to make some solid achievements, but he didn't expect Yun Guangdou, this guy, to be haunting him. He went to other places and still plotted behind people's backs. The car in front, please move aside. There is a wedding motorcade behind. A burst of urgent car horns and shouts came from behind. Yang Ming glanced back, but it was two Hummers opening the way, followed by a team of luxury cars with red flowers. The license plates of the two Hummers were very badass. They were the black plates Jingf 66666 and Jingf 99999, but he didn't know if they were fake plates. Who is it? Such a big show, asked Yang Ming. It's a license plate from Mount Jing. It's not a local motorcade. I don't know. Bao Somli also noticed the wedding motorcade from the rearview mirror. Maybe they came from Donghai to Songjiang to pick up the bride. Do you want me to go down and ask? Mount Jing was a special city. It was the original provincial capital. Later, the provincial capital was changed to Donghai, and Mount Jing was assigned to the neighboring province. It was said that it would be changed to a municipality in the near future. The license plate of Mount Jing, which was divided, did not follow the neighboring province. Instead, it independently became the word Jing, which was very conspicuous. It was precisely because of this that Mount Jing's license plate resources were relatively rich, and it was relatively easy to get a better license plate. Bao Somli didn't quite understand what Yang Ming meant. Now Yang Ming's mood wasn't very good. He didn't know if this somewhat pretentious wedding team had offended Yang Ming. Don't ask, who cares who he is? Yang Ming just asked casually and didn't care much. This road was not wide to begin with. If the wedding convoy wanted to pass through, the other cars had to avoid the emergency lane. Excuse me. The drivers of the two Hummers were obviously very arrogant people. They grabbed the megaphone and kept shouting. Bao Sanli didn't have the habit of giving way to others in Songjiang. If it was an ambulance or a fire truck, maybe Bao Sanli would give way. But why are you in such a hurry when it's a wedding convoy? It wasn't like he was going to a funeral. Didn't you hear the Jinbei van in front? I'm talking to you. Seeing that Bao Sanli's Jinbei van didn't mean to give way, one of the Hummers said impatiently. So arrogant. Yang Ming looked at the two Hummers behind. Maybe it's the local tyrant of Mount Jing. Bao Sanli said, do you need to find someone to deal with them? Whether it was the local tyrant of Mount Jing or not, if they didn't follow the rules in Songjiang, even if Bao Sanli wanted to deal with them, they could only suffer in silence. Wait, I think I have seen the first car behind. Zhang Dejuan suddenly said, it seems to be the car of the Sui family in Mount Jing. Sui family. Yang Ming glanced at the Rolls-Royce Phantom behind the two Hummers. This kind of car was rare in China. Especially the blue license plate Jinga 88888 on the top. This kind of license plate was much more difficult to get than the black joint venture license plate. The 5 8s at the beginning of the A were only one in the entire city. It wasn't something that could be obtained with money. Mount Jing's Qiming Group belongs to the Sui family. Zhang Dejuan said, I have had business dealings with his family. I recognize this car. Qiming Group. Is it famous? Yang Ming was still an ordinary student a year ago. He didn't know much about the business pattern in the province. 20 years ago, when Mount Jing was still the provincial capital, the Qiming Group was the leading company in the province. Zhang Dejuan introduced. Don't worry about them. Yang Ming didn't care too much. According to Zhang Dejuan, it was rare to see a big private enterprise in the 1980s. Therefore, it was normal for this Qiming Group to be arrogant. Saying that he didn't care about them meant that he didn't want to trouble them. Bao Sanli didn't mean to avoid it. In his opinion, what could be more important than Brother Yang's matter? Motherfucker, are you deaf? The one who drives the C-7337 bread, quickly move aside. When the driver of the Hummer saw that Bao Sanli didn't hide to the side, his words began to sound unpleasant. Yang Ming frowned, and he wasn't so happy. He said faintly, this is Songjiang, not Mount Jing. When Bao Sanli heard the words, motherfucker, he had the impulse to get out of the car and kill people. However, Yang Ming didn't say anything, so he didn't dare to make a decision. However, he had secretly sent a text message to inform the underlings nearby to quickly bring people over to be on standby. Now, Yang Ming's tone also showed some displeasure, so Bao Sanli had a reason to be angry. This group of people is really arrogant. They are not in their own territory, but they dare to be arrogant. Bao Sanli slammed the steering wheel and put the van in the middle of the road, completely blocking the cars behind. The speed of the Hummer was not fast. It was impossible to hit them. The drivers of the two Hummers saw the van in front of them turn sideways and immediately honked, but it was obvious that they were doing it deliberately. The driver of the Hummer had to stop the car, and the motorcade behind also stopped. Four burly men jumped down from the two Hummers and rushed to the van. They cursed as they ran. After they came over, they pulled the door of the driver's seat on Bao Sanli's side. Come down. Do you want to die? Motherfucker, you dare to delay our young master's wedding. I will fucking kill you. A macho man yelled. However, before the car door could be pulled open, a group of people wearing the same black suits surrounded the four big men and blocked them. When the four macho men saw this situation, they were slightly stunned. They understood that they had provoked a troublemaker. Although they didn't know who was sitting in the van, it was obvious that they were quite powerful. They were suddenly at a loss, but it was impossible for them to admit their mistake. The people here didn't have Bao Sanli's instructions, so they wouldn't make a move. The two sides were in a stalemate. Sui Guangqi frowned in the Rolls-Royce behind. He said to his second uncle Sui Yuemin, who was in the front passenger seat, "Second uncle, your men's temper is a bit too bad. It is easy to get into trouble like this." Sui Yuemin scolded the little fox in his heart. "You saw the two Hummers in front of us just now, but you acted as if you didn't see them. Now that you're in trouble, you're blaming it on me." However, Sui Yuemin didn't dare to say these words. He could have his current status because of his elder brother, Sui Yuejin. Sui Guangqi was Sui Yuejin's son. Although he was his nephew, he didn't dare to offend him. Today was the wedding day of Sui Yuemin's eldest son, Sui Guangheng. Even so, the people in the Sui family could only call his son Young Master Tang. They didn't dare to call him Young Master directly. Since the matter had been stirred up, it was necessary to settle it quickly. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if the wedding motorcade stayed here. Sui Yuemin said with a bitter face, "Guangqi, sorry for letting you see this. Your second uncle is a rough person. My men are also rough people. Their temper is not very good. I will go down and take a look." Sui Yuemin got out of the car, and Sui Guangqi followed. After all, with his second uncle as an elder, it was impossible for Sui Guangqi to sit in the car and watch the fun. What's more, although Sui Guangqi was arrogant, he dealt with the usual ways of the world very well. No one could find fault with him. Sui Yuemin walked over quickly. At this time, Bao Sanli saw that the other party sent people over, so he slowly opened the door and got out of the car. He didn't even have the desire to talk to the four small buildings just now. Bao Sanli naturally wouldn't get out of the car. "Brother, I'm sorry. My men haven't been to school. Their style of speaking is a bit rough. I apologize for them." In this case, Sui Yuemin naturally wouldn't put on airs, so he started to apologize as soon as he came up. "Who is your brother?" Bao Sanli didn't give him much face. No matter how arrogant the Sui family was in Mount Jing, when it came to Songjiang, even if you were a dragon, you still had to bow down to me. When the Northeasterners usually talked, they liked to call each other brother in order to get closer to each other. It seemed more intimate. "I'm the second son of the Sui family in Mount Jing, Sui Yuemin." "What's your name, mister?" Sui Yuemin was slightly displeased. In Mount Jing, no one didn't give him face. However, he also knew that this wasn't Mount Jing, but Songjiang. "Sui family. I haven't heard of it." Bao Sanli said faintly, "But it's quite a show. My name is Bao Sanli. I'm just a small character. I definitely can't know people like you from the upper class." Bao Sanli. Sui Yuemin felt that it was a bit familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it. The Sui family in Mount Jing also had some unspeakable connections with the underworld, but they definitely didn't know much about the underworld of Songjiang. They usually didn't come into contact with it. It was good enough to hear a little about it. Yang Ming was in the car, but he was lost in thought. How could it be him? Looking at Sui Guangqi's calm face, Yang Ming was a bit inexplicable. Mount Jing Sui family. Then, Sui Guangqi could appear here together. Thinking about the situation at the Immortal Resort last time, Sui Guangqi must be a member of the Sui family. At that time, he heard people calling him a young master, so his position in the Sui family could be imagined. Chapter 735. However, why did the young master of the Sui family come to Songjiang to study in junior high school? This made Yang Ming very puzzled. Moreover, when Sui Guangqi was in junior high school, he didn't look like a young master at all. Although Sui Guangqi had studied in Songjiang for a while, he didn't know who Bao Sanli was. However, seeing Bao Sanli's posture, no matter how stupid he was, he could understand that this guy had some power in Songjiang. Otherwise, he couldn't summon so many underlings in a short time. Mount Jing's Qiming group is my father's business. Sui Guangqi came over and reached out to shake hands with Bao Sanli. The necessary gesture still had to be done. After all, it was his side that offended the other party first. Qiming group. Bao Sanli snorted. I seem to have heard of it, but it has nothing to do with me. Sui Guangqi was somewhat embarrassed in front of so many people, but he couldn't flare up. He could only smile awkwardly. It's just a local company, mainly in the real estate and electronics industries. At this time, Yang Ming rolled down the window, stuck his head out from inside, and shouted to Bao Sanli, "Let them go." I know him, Sui Guangqi. We are junior high school classmates. Oh. Bao Sanli looked at Sui Guangqi with some surprise, but since Yang Ming had spoken, he naturally wouldn't stay any longer. He smiled and nodded to Sui Guangqi, but he didn't have a good expression toward Sui Yuemin. His expression was still cold. Brother Yang has spoken, so I naturally won't say anything. But what I want to tell you is that if it were any other time, your team won't be able to drive out of Songjiang again. After that, he turned and got into the Jinbei car and started the car. Yang Ming also raised the window. His impression of Sui Guangqi was not very good. This person was very scheming. Zhou Jiejie had now been regarded as his woman by Yang Ming, so he was very upset about Sui Guangqi's dirty tricks last time. But other than that, the two people had no deep hatred. Yang Ming was not in the mood to compete with him. But he didn't want to say anything to him. The van slowly drove away from the scene, and the surrounding underlings also dispersed one after another. Only Sui Guangqi, Sui Yuemin, and 4 bodyguards were left standing on the spot. Guangqi, is this person your classmate? What does his family do? Sui Yuemin could also see that Yang Ming, who was sitting in the car, was the one who had the final say among those people. Sui Guangqi let out an "ah" sound and woke up from the shock just now. When he was in school, he knew that Yang Ming was a gangster, but he didn't expect Yang Ming to be so successful and have such a powerful underling. Yes, he is my junior high school classmate. His family doesn't have much. His parents seem to be workers, but he mingled in the society when he was in junior high school. Sui Guangqi explained. So that's how it is. Looks like we've met a local tyrant today. When Sui Yuemin heard Sui Guangqi's words, he understood the identity of Bao Sanli. It seemed that if their leader didn't know Sui Guangqi, it wouldn't be good today. But Sui Guangqi didn't think so in his heart. He didn't think that Yang Ming was helping him out. Judging from Yang Ming's indifferent tone and attitude, Sui Guangqi thought that Yang Ming was deliberately putting on airs because Yang Ming didn't greet him from beginning to end. Moreover, what made Sui Guangqi hate the most was that Yang Ming ruined his good deeds twice in the resort last time. Back in the car, Sui Guangqi said to the driver, "Uncle Song, help me investigate the information of Songjiang's underworld." Although Song Jun was only a driver, he also served as the bodyguard of Sui Guangqi and Sui Yuejin. In the early years, Song Jun was also a person in the underworld of Mount Jing. The Sui family also communicated with the underworld of Mount Jing through Song Jun. Okay. Song Jun nodded after listening. Sui Yuemin listened to his nephew's words, but his eyes lit up. What happened just now made him lose face. Although his underlings were arrogant in the first place, they were still his people. You have to look at the master before you beat the dog. However, Sui Yuemin thought that he didn't have the ability to retaliate, so he could only swallow the insult. But if it was Sui Guangqi, it would be different. If Sui Guangqi hated someone, he would definitely do anything to get revenge. Guangqi, do you plan to get back at them in the future? Sui Yuemin asked tentatively. Get back at them? Get back at what? Sui Guangqi pretended to be shocked, and then said, Oh, you mean why am I looking for information about Song Jiang's underworld? I just have to look around. I want to know how my classmate is doing. Oh, it's like this. Sui Yuemin saw that Sui Guangqi didn't want to say, so he responded with some embarrassment and didn't mention this topic anymore. Sui Guangheng's wife's family was from Songjiang. Although she was now working in Mount Jing, according to custom, she still had to come to her parents' place to pick up the bride. Sui Yuejin could participate in the wedding, but Sui Yuejin wouldn't come for things like picking up the bride. Instead, he sent his own car to be the first car and accompanied by his son, Sui Guangqi. Sui Guangheng sat in the extended Lincoln behind the Rolls-Royce. He also saw what happened just now, but as the groom, he couldn't just get out of the car. He wanted to ask, but he could only keep it in his heart. Brother Yang, do you know that group of people just now? Bao Sanli asked as he drove. I was the class monitor in junior high school. I don't like this person very much. Yang Ming replied casually. Since you don't like him, why are you still interceding for him? Bao Sanli was a little puzzled. It's just that there is no need to have a conflict with him. Not liking him doesn't mean that I hate him. Yang Ming said, I just met him at a class reunion a while ago. At least, I still have to do some superficial work. Bao Sanli nodded and said nothing. After passing by Zhang Dejuan's advertising company, Zhang Dejuan got off first. Before leaving, he promised Yang Ming and Bao Sanli that he would try his best to deal with the website. The car was parked in the parking lot downstairs of the Huashang building. Yang Ming said to Bao Sanli, You go back first. Don't wait for me. I will go by myself later. That's fine. Call me at any time if you need anything. Bao Sanli didn't say that he had to wait here because there was no need. What Yang Ming said was the most correct thing for Bao Sanli to do. When they came to the floor where Sun Jie's company was located, the receptionist at the front desk knew Yang Ming. When she saw him come in, she nodded and greeted, Mr. Yang, you are here. Can I help you call Manager Sun's office? No need. I will go by myself. Yang Ming said. The receptionist knew that Yang Ming and Sun Jie had a good personal relationship. The people in the company had also spread the news privately that Yang Ming was the future son-in-law of the Sun family, so her attitude toward Yang Ming was polite. In order to please Yang Ming, the receptionist lowered her voice and whispered to Yang Ming, In these 2 days, there are always express deliveries to send flowers to Manager Sun. They are red roses, oh. Yang Ming was stunned, then he smiled and said to the receptionist, I got it. Thank you. It seemed that Sun Jie was still quite popular. Previously, there were Gu Jianchao and Yun Guangdou. In the past few days, there were new pursuers. Without knocking on the door, he directly pushed the door and walked into Sun Jie's office. He found that Sun Jie was writing a document. On the windowsill not far away, there was a large pot of roses. Obviously, they were the flowers mentioned by the receptionist. When she heard that the office door was pushed open, Sun Jie didn't look up and said directly, Just put the document on my desk. I will look at it in a while. Yang Ming didn't answer. He tiptoed behind Sun Jie, then his hands passed under Sun Jie's armpits and placed on the towering part of her chest. Yeah! Sun Jie exclaimed. Just as she wanted to reach out and push, she looked up and saw Yang Ming's evil smile. She frowned and said, You are so quiet. Do you want to scare me to death? Although the tone of her speech was slightly dissatisfied, she didn't push away Yang Ming's mischievous hands. Apparently, she was used to Yang Ming's actions that were close to a lover's, or perhaps she was helpless. Seeing that you are working hard, I can't bear to disturb you. Yang Ming smiled. You don't want to disturb me, but what are your hands doing? Sun Jia glared at Yang Ming. I see that you are too big here, and you are bending over to work. You must feel that your chest is heavy and uncomfortable, right? Yang Ming said shamelessly, so, I am helping you hold it up to reduce your burden. No need. Sun Jia said in a bad mood, but she had to admit that her chest was really too big. Although it was beautiful in clothes and had a high number of people looking at it when she walked on the street, it was really cumbersome when she was working. Sun Jia sometimes felt tired, so she secretly opened the drawer of the desk and pressed her chest against the drawer to reduce her burden. What are you looking for me for? Do I have to look for you for something? Can't I miss you and come to see you? Yang Ming said so, but his heart was extremely embarrassed. Sun Jia seemed to be able to see through his mind. It was no wonder that every time he looked for Sun Jia, there seemed to be something. There was never a time when there was nothing. Of course. Sun Jia snorted. If you don't have anything, I will work first. Let's have lunch together later. Ugh. Yang Ming felt like he had dug a hole and jumped into it himself. Seeing that Sun Jia lowered her head and continued to work, Yang Ming casually changed the topic. These roses are very beautiful. Did your pursuer give them to you? Yes. Sun Jia didn't look up, and 2 words popped out of her mouth. Then, why did you put them on the windowsill? Yang Ming was slightly jealous in his heart. You don't give them to me, and you don't allow me to put them from others. Sun Jia looked up and raised her eyebrows beautifully. That's fine. Tomorrow, I will send you a bunch of flowers every day. Yang Ming was delighted. He didn't know if Sun Jia's words were considered to be loosening her grip on him. Then, can you throw these flowers away now? Throw them away for what? Sun Jia looked at Yang Ming with a smile. Are you jealous? Chapter 736. Why would I be jealous? But, who sent these flowers? Yang Ming said with some embarrassment. I don't know. Sun Jia said indifferently. You don't know? Really? Yang Ming looked at Sun Jia strangely after listening, but Sun Jia didn't look like she was lying. Why would I lie to you? I really don't know. Sun Jia smiled lightly. The person who sent the flowers is really good. He didn't leave his name when he sent the flowers. These flowers were sent for nothing. Why don't you just think that I sent it? Yang Ming said with a big face. Who said that he didn't leave it? It's just that I didn't look at it. I just asked the secretary to throw the card away. Sun Jia said. Yang Ming smacked his lips twice and said, this person is really unlucky. These flowers were sent for nothing. But then again, if this flower was sent by me, wouldn't you not see it? Why don't I believe that you are so kind? You can still remember me when you have nothing to do. Okay, Yang Ming, don't beat around the bush with me. Just say what you want to say. Sun Jia stood up. She seemed to inadvertently shake off Yang Ming's hand on her chest and sat on the sofa next to him. Ugh. How is your car? Yang Ming was a little embarrassed by Sun Jia. He was really embarrassed to talk about business directly. It's fixed. It's not very serious. Sun Jia glared at Yang Ming and said, when I saw the car, I thought you weren't much better than the car. Sun Jia naturally didn't really mean to blame Yang Ming. Yang Ming could certainly hear it. Otherwise, Sun Jia wouldn't just say a few sarcastic words when Yang Ming mentioned this matter. If it were someone else, don't mention chasing to get the car fixed, it would be good enough if he didn't buy a new car to compensate. Hee hee. Yang Ming laughed twice. I ran fast. Otherwise, it would be worse than the car. Sun Jia saw that Yang Ming was talking nonsense. She was a little angry. How could she not understand why Yang Ming came to her? During this time, Sun Jia had been silently paying attention to the things that Yang Ming's company did. For Yang Ming's company to hire Shuya as a spokesperson, she was quite supportive. It could quickly increase their reputation in a short period of time. However, Yun Guangdo get a gunner from nowhere and start say some very provocative words. It could be said that if one did not have much judgment, it would be very easy to be confused by this report. What he said seemed to be reasonable, specifically grasping the psychology of people and making them resonate, but in reality, people who knew the inside story would realize that this person was purely jumping out to cause trouble. Although there was a huge difference in quality and material between clothes that cost 100,000 yuan and clothes that cost 100 yuan on the streets, the cost should not be too different. Therefore, it was obvious that this person had ulterior motives. Sun Jia had been in the business world for so many years. She could see these little conspiracies at a glance. Yang Ming came to her at this time. 80% of it was related to this matter. I don't have the mood to talk nonsense with you. I have read the articles on the internet. What are you going to do? Sun Jia pulled the topic back. Otherwise, who knew where Yang Ming was going to go? What else can I do? The person who wrote the article is obviously picking on that group and bewitching the public. Yang Ming spread his hands and said helplessly, the current market is like this. Doing the market is actually doing the brand. The price of a product depends entirely on the value of the brand. This is understandable. Who would have thought that this person would turn me into an enemy? Sun Jia nodded. It seemed that Yang Ming was not completely unconsidered, but his experience was too shallow. If he could think of this step, it was basically the key to the matter. Since the key problem was figured out, it was easy to solve. Sun Jia took out a stack of Lu Weishan Jewelry's recent brochures from the drawer. It was printed with a large portrait of Shuya. Shuya opened one of the brochures and pointed to a line of small words on it. You said that all jewelry is designed by an internationally famous designer. Is this true or just hype? Of course, it is true. Yang Ming said, there is no need to lie about this kind of thing. Then, your so-called internationally famous designer, is he really famous, or just a few foreigners to make up the numbers? Sun Jia continued to ask. Now, many advertisements were exaggerated, claiming that their things were designed by an internationally famous designer. However, this so-and-so was actually just a foreigner. He had no reputation in the world at all. It could only fool people who didn't know the truth. If it was exposed, the consequences would be very serious. Of course, it is true. For example, this pair of couples necklaces, Heart to Heart, was designed by Jessica Robertson. Yang Ming pointed to a picture in the brochure. Jessica Robertson. The person who designed for many world jewelry brands? Sun Jia was a little surprised. She didn't expect that Yang Ming's company could invite such a master-level character to design. And, it's him. Yang Ming smiled and said, do you want to take a look at the design book? It is in the company. It has his autograph. That's not necessary. There is no need for you to lie to me. Sun Jia naturally believed in Yang Ming. The two people were now discussing how to solve the company's current crisis. If Yang Ming even lied to her, then there was no need to continue the discussion. Since this is the case, then things are easy to handle. You find some people to do an exclusive interview with Jessica Robertson and let her talk about the feelings of the design. In this way, the public opinion will collapse. Sun Jia thought about it and said, Jessica Robertson has designed jewelry for world-class jewelry companies such as Tiffany and Co. and Damiani. Once this exclusive interview is broadcasted, it will imperceptibly raise the status of Lu Weishan jewelry. It is normal for the jewelry designed by a world-class designer and those ordinary jewelry to have a difference in price. No one will say anything more. Yes. Yang Ming was enlightened. He had been thinking about this issue before. The meaning he wanted to express to the public was the intrinsic value of Lu Weishan's brand and the goods sold. He wanted to distinguish it from second- and third-class jewelry companies such as Yun Jewelry. However, he didn't know how to express it. If he held a press conference directly, it would seem that he was a bit too pretentious. Someone had just questioned him, and he was eager to clarify and explain. It would be self-defeating. However, Sun Jia's method was a very clever way to save the country. She didn't directly respond to those doubts. She just did an exclusive interview to explain the value of Lu Weishan Jewelry's brand. In this way, there was no need to explain anything. Those public opinions would naturally disappear. Now, most of those who questioned after reading the article had such a mood. They were all selling jewelry. How many times more expensive could you ask Shuya to be the spokesperson than others? In their eyes, they put Lu Weishan Jewelry and other jewelry companies on the same level, so they had such an idea. But they believed that as long as the exclusive interview was broadcasted, Lu Weishan Jewelry would rise to the height of an international brand. I understand what to do. Thank you. Yang Ming said very pertinently this time. After all, Sun Jia's words woke him up. Otherwise, he would definitely be troubled by these things. What are you thanking me for? In fact, you thought about it yourself. I just put your ideas into practice. Sun Jia shook her head. It's noon. Let's go to the cafeteria downstairs for lunch. The Huashang building had 46 floors. There were nearly 500 large and small companies in it. There weren't many companies like Sun Jia's that occupied a floor. Most of them formed a small company with a few offices. The dining of the employees of the various companies in the building was a very important issue, so the Huashang building simply built a cafeteria open to the employees of the various companies in the building. However, the meal time was strictly controlled. If tens of thousands of people were crowded in the cafeteria at the same time, how could they sit down? Therefore, from 11 o'clock in the morning to 1:30 in the afternoon, the meal time was divided into several batches according to the floor where the company was located. Sun Jia's company was relatively large, so it was divided into a batch. There was no need for others to remind them. When it was time, the people in the company put down the things in their hands and went downstairs to eat. Do you eat in the cafeteria with everyone every day? Asked Yang Ming. The bosses of other companies are also like this. Sun Jia smiled. There are no fast food restaurants nearby. They are all office buildings, so if we don't eat here, there is really nowhere to eat. Besides, the food in the cafeteria is also good. Hee, little Jia, is there a guest in the company? Do you need to open a private room for you? The cafeteria manager, Sister Lu, came over and saw Sun Jia accompanying Yang Ming, so she asked. Sister Lu knew the managers of the companies in the building. Sometimes, when the company had customers, Sister Lu would open a private room to entertain them. No need, my friend. I'll just have a simple meal in the cafeteria. Sun Jia said with a smile. That's fine. Call me if you need anything. I'll be inside. Sister Lu didn't say much. It was Sister Lu's job to walk between these managers every day. The food in the cafeteria was good. At least, Yang Ming felt that it was better than the food in school, but the portion given was not so enough. It was no wonder when he thought about it. It was only 5 yuan. Now, the prices were rising. The cafeteria was not a charity. Many young and strong male staff bought 2 servings. Everyone didn't talk. They found a place and ate quickly. It seemed that they had developed a habit. Knowing that there were still people waiting in line behind, everyone could be considerate. After the meal, when he went upstairs, Yang Ming suddenly thought of something and asked Sun Jia, "Have you heard of the Sui family in Mount Jing?" Sui family? Why? Don't you have a feud with the Sui family again? Sun Jia was surprised and asked. Chapter 737. Not really. I have a junior high school classmate. He is a member of the Sui family. He seems to be a direct descendant. When he just came, I don't know who in his family is getting married. He sent a luxury team to Songjiang to pick up the bride. He was so arrogant. Yang Ming said. I know this. The person getting married is Sui Guangheng, the son of the second son of the Sui family. I also received an invitation here. However, the gift was given, but the Sun family did not send anyone. Right, what is the name of your classmate? Asked Sun Jia. Sui Guangqi, said Yang Ming. Oh. I have heard of him. He is the son of Sui Yujin, the future leader of the Sui family. Sun Jia said, it seems that your classmate is not simple, but how can he be your classmate? Isn't his family in Mount Jing? I am also very puzzled. How did he come to Songjiang to study in junior high school? Yang Ming shook his head. Right, how do you know so much? My family can now be regarded as the first family in Donghai. Naturally, I will pay attention to the previous first family in the provincial capital. Sun Jia said, it is not to belittle ourselves. Our Sun family has only risen in recent years. We did not start as early as the Sui family. In the first few years, when the Sun family was not big, my father had to be on guard against potential competitors coming to Donghai. But now it seems that the Sui family has no intention of expanding to Donghai. I say, since this is the case, you should have detailed information about the Sui family here, right? I want to see it. Yang Ming asked. Yang Ming had encountered this kind of jealousy because of women. He had also suffered a hidden loss. Since Sui Guangqi likes Zhou Jiejie, and Zhou Jiejie is with me, then it is hard to guarantee that this kid will not have any resentment. He will be jealous of me and play some tricks behind my back. I must guard against it in advance. Know yourself and know the enemy, and you can win every battle. I don't have the information here. Third uncle should have very detailed information. If you want, I will ask him to email you in a while, said Sun Jia. When he came to Sun Jia's office, Yang Ming closed the door and hugged Sun Jia from behind. He said softly, have you considered our matter? The business was solved. Yang Ming also had the mood to flirt with Sun Jia. Every time Yang Ming saw Sun Jia, whether it was words or body language, he was so direct. It wasn't that Yang Ming took advantage of Sun Jia. Perhaps Yang Ming initially thought that Sun Jia wasn't a virgin. There was this factor, but later Yang Ming learned that Sun Jia was a woman, and he was her first man. As for the other women around Yang Ming, including Qin Mengyan who often threw tantrums, Yang Ming had never felt that he couldn't control them. Sun Jia was the only one that Yang Ming could not figure out. Yang Ming also wanted to pursue Sun Jia like he pursued Lin Jiyun, but he really didn't have confidence. Moreover, Sun Jia looked much more mature than Lin Jiyun. She didn't feel anything for the sweet words between lovers. Yang Ming was a very male chauvinist person. Therefore, in order to hide his inability to control Sun Jia, Yang Ming could only be frivolous to hide his true thoughts. What do we do? Sun Jia didn't push Yang Ming away, but she didn't lean into Yang Ming's arms like other women. Instead, she asked very calmly. What do you think? Yang Ming turned his head to Sun Jia's ear and said somewhat teasingly. Don't mess around, it's very ticklish. Sun Jia shook her head and said discontentedly. Be my woman. Yang Ming saw Sun Jia pretending to be stupid and had to say it. Sun Jia didn't open her mouth, but her body trembled slightly. After a while, she sighed and said faintly, so what if I don't do it? Isn't it good now? Also, are you sure you love me? It was true that Yang Ming had a good impression of Sun Jia, but when it came to love, Yang Ming's feelings for Sun Jia were more of an obsession with her body. Also, in terms of his career, he couldn't leave her. You're not sure about your feelings, and I'm the same. It's still too early to ask this question. Sun Jia shook her head. Let's just go with the flow, okay? Okay. Yang Ming knew Sun Jia's character very well. He knew that when she said this, it already meant that the two people had the possibility to continue to develop, so he didn't push too hard. On the computer in the bedroom, Yang Ming checked the email sent by Sun San about the Sui family. Sui Yuejin, 43 years old this year, was born in a very poor family. His father died early, and he only had an old mother and a younger brother. At the age of 14, he began to work outside. He started as a bricklayer and built his career step by step. He established the current Qiming Group. He could be said to be a legendary figure. He was very dazzling in the 1980s. In 2000 years, the Sui family had a crisis. Haishan City's image project, Xinhong Overpass, collapsed. The contractor was Sui Yuejin's Qiming Group. As for what was going on in the middle, it couldn't be reflected in the information. For a time, many people who had a conflict with the Sui family stood up and prepared to destroy the Sui family. It was also at this time that Sui Guangqi went to Songjiang's Red Flag Junior High School. It was also for this reason that Sui Yuejin sent his son to study in a different place. Maybe the situation at the time was really bad. Sui Yuejin was ready to fight to the death. The Sui family had experienced a great change. Sui Guangqi would definitely be very low-key, so Yang Ming didn't see anything special about Sui Guangqi when he was in junior high school. Later, the matter was miraculously resolved. A designer of the overpass took the initiative to stand up and admit that there were design flaws in the overpass at that time. However, it was impossible for the Qiming Group to not have any responsibility as the contractor. Fortunately, the accident happened in the middle of the night. Only the driver of a medium-sized truck was injured, and no one was killed. Sui Yuejin directly proposed that the Qiming Group fully funded the reconstruction, and the matter calmed down. As for whether or not this was the case, no one knew. However, from other information, it could be seen that Sui Yuejin was a very black-hearted businessman. When he was in the real estate business, his demolition team caused a tragedy of 2 deaths and 1 injury when the old residential area was demolished. Although the person in charge of the demolition team was sentenced to life imprisonment, Sui Yuejin pushed the responsibility away and just paid some money. This was a relatively sensational case. There were countless cases of other demolitions that caused injuries and disabilities in the demolition. If it was said that this was not Sui Yuejin's behind-the-scenes instruction, no one would believe it. However, there was no shortage of people under him who could take the blame. Sui Yuejin's business was getting bigger and bigger, and there was no impact at all. The companies that added insult to injury were also on the verge of bankruptcy because of Sui Yuejin's opportunity. Obviously, Sui Yuejin was a grey businessman who mingled between the white and the black. These things couldn't have nothing to do with the local underworld. Yang Ming didn't object to the connection between the company and the underworld. After all, some industries couldn't be done without the underworld background. However, Sui Yuejin let the underworld members target the unarmed people. This was Yang Ming's deep hatred. This was a person who would do anything to achieve his goal. Yang Ming closed the information. The history of this person's business was very similar to Wang Shifan's in the past, but Wang Shifan didn't do it as overboard as this person, making the people angry. However, what made Yang Ming somewhat resentful was that this guy could actually do such a thing. It was more than 10 times bigger than Wang Shifan's business. This kind of person was the most shameless of Yang Ming. If this guy provoked him, then he couldn't blame Yang Ming for being rude. This kind of person wasn't worth playing tricks with. It would be satisfying to kill him directly. At the beginning, although Yang Ming and Wang Jitao's family were like fire and water, Wang Shifan's reputation in Songjiang wasn't so bad. Therefore, Yang Ming could be patient and use normal means to destroy him. However, this Sui Yuejin was different. Killing him directly was enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Lying in bed, Yang Ming touched Zhou Jiejia's diary. During this time, Yang Ming would read a few articles of Zhou Jiejia's diary when he was free every day. It was easier to understand Zhou Jiejia's character and her inner world. However, what Yang Ming didn't expect was that Zhou Jiejia was actually a computer hacker. Thinking of the competition when he just entered university, the posts that were unfavorable to him disappeared instantly. He didn't expect that Zhou Jiejia was behind it. Reading until here, Yang Ming couldn't help but chuckle. It was said that a woman stood behind a successful man, and Zhou Jiejia was just right for it. The phone rang. Yang Ming put down the diary first and picked up the phone. President Yang, this is Zhang Dejuan. Zhang Dejuan's voice came over the phone. Hello, President Zhang, said Yang Ming. President Yang, I'm here to apologize to you. I'm sorry. That website is a company owned by a competitor of my classmate. He really can't speak. Zhang Dejuan said apologetically. It doesn't matter. There is nothing to apologize for. It's not your duty. You just came to help me. Yang Ming smiled and said, anyway, I still troubled you. Premier Yang, it's fine. I will think of a way here. Said Zhang Dejuan. No need. Let's forget about this. Yang Ming wasn't very concerned about the report now. Since he had decided on a counterattack plan, it didn't matter whether the report was deleted or not. I have a new interview that I need your help with. You help me plan it. That's fine. President Yang, tell me when. I will come to you, said Zhang Dejuan. Tonight. Wait for my call. Yang Ming hung up the phone and looked at the diary in his hand. He thought, if Zhou Jiejia is fine now, it should be easy to delete the report on the website, right? But, when will she wake up? Thinking of this, Yang Ming's mood was a little heavy again. Chapter 738. The house decoration was almost done. The contractor called and said that it had entered the final stage. Although the materials used for the decoration were environmentally friendly, a little volatiles were harmful to the human body, especially for patients like Zhou Jiejia who stayed at home for a long time. Yang Ming couldn't be careless. He planned to put Zhou Jiejia away for a while after the decoration. Putting Zhou Jiejia's diary aside, Yang Ming began to think about his special ability. When he was in the car last time, Yang Ming probably had some clues about his special ability. However, he was busy these days. Messy things came together, so Yang Ming didn't have time to think about it systematically. Now that he was free, Yang Ming planned to think about it. His previous train of thought was basically correct. Every time he could see other people's thoughts, it was in some very critical moments. Yang Ming didn't think that his special ability had any warning function. If this was the case, then why didn't there be any warning in the previous few dangers? For example, he was fooled by Wang Jitao into the heavenly earth world, and he inexplicably had a relationship with Lin Jiyun. Then, Zhou Jiejia blocked the bullet for him. There was no warning in advance about these things. Therefore, Yang Ming's idea at the time was that when others were nervous, he could see other people's thoughts clearly. However, Yang Ming later experimented a few more times and found that this wasn't the case. Before this, another idea that Yang Ming thought of was that when he concentrated, he could see other people's thoughts. Now that he recalled it, it seemed that this was the case every time. However, when these two conditions were met at the same time, perhaps the special ability would work. For example, the first time this special ability appeared was when he found two thieves at home. When there were thieves in the house, his spirit was naturally very focused and nervous. When the thieves were stealing things, they would be very nervous. The second time was on the bus, when he encountered a thief with a knife with Chen Mengyan. Blatantly holding a knife on the bus, he must bear some psychological pressure. No one would believe that he wasn't nervous. Yang Ming was afraid that the thief would hurt Chen Mengyan, so he didn't dare to be careless. He was definitely focused. The third time was in Tingchong, where he heard the voice of the young lady, Li Jasmine. Li Jasmine was wrongly accused of being a thief, so she was naturally nervous. Yang Ming lost the imperial jade, so he had to pay attention to it. Yang Ming couldn't remember if he was focused at that time, but it should be like this. The fourth time was when Hou Zhan robbed Lin Jiyun. Yang Ming was afraid that he would hurt Lin Jiyun. The fifth time was when Yang Dashan was kidnapped. Yang Ming heard the voice of the peaked cap man. When Yang Ming's attention was focused, and the other party's psychology was also very nervous, the special ability would appear. Yang Ming decided to find an opportunity to test it, but it was difficult to have such an opportunity recently. Before meeting Zhang Dejuan, Yang Ming was going to the flower shop first. Since he had promised Sun Jia to send her a bouquet of flowers every day, Yang Ming didn't want to break his promise. He called Bao Sanli and asked about the better flower shop in the city. Yang Ming drove the BMW X5, which had just had its windshield replaced, to the flower shop. The scale of this flower shop wasn't small. It was 400 or 500 square meters. The variety inside was also very complete. It was said that there was its own planting shed. As soon as he entered the door, a waiter greeted him. "Sir, do you want to buy flowers? Do you provide a flower delivery service here? I give you money, and you send someone to deliver the flowers to a fixed place every day?" Yang Ming asked. "Yes, sir. Our flower shop cooperates with the city's Haitong Express delivery. The delivery network is the most complete among all the flower shops in the city, and we also have the service of delivering flowers in different places." The waiter smiled and explained, "Sir, if you want to send flowers to a friend, you can go to the service desk over there to register, fill in the blessing card, and confirm the delivery time." "Okay, you take me there." Yang Ming nodded. The waiter led Yang Ming to the service desk of the flower shop, but he saw an acquaintance. "Ha, I say, buddy, are you also here to send flowers to your girlfriend?" Li Xuan was filling in the card. When he looked up and saw Yang Ming coming over, he quickly greeted, "I'm sorry about the last time. I saw it nearby. You were thrown with roses. I will treat you to a meal later. Consider it as compensation. Don't mention the last time." Yang Ming smiled bitterly. Wang Xiaoyan actually thought that he was the one who sent her flowers. What kind of mess was this? Then it's settled. I will treat you to a meal later. After Li Xuan finished, he continued to write on the card in his hand. A stack of cards was a month's supply. Li Xuan racked his brain and tried to make each card's love words different. Yang Ming picked up a few and found that Li Xuan, this guy, was quite literary. The love words he wrote were really touching. Yang Ming sighed. So, after he agreed with the waiter on the address and number of flowers sent every day, he took the card written by Li Yixuan and copied it. Anyway, as long as he did his best, Sun Jia wouldn't care if these words were written by him. Li Yixuan didn't sign off on the card, but Yang Ming did. Otherwise, if Sun Jia thought it was an inexplicable suitor and threw the card away directly, wouldn't it be a waste of his gift? After copying, Yang Ming handed the card to the waiter, paid the money, and went out of the flower shop with Li Yixuan. Which of these two cards belongs to which? The waiter was distracted just now and mixed up the two stacks of cards in his hand. They wrote the same. Both are the same. Another waiter didn't look at it and took the cards and put them on the corresponding shelf. Do you want to eat together? Li Yixuan asked Yang Ming. No, another day. I have an appointment with someone else today. Yang Ming refused Li Yixuan's invitation. He and Zhang Dejuan had already made an appointment to meet in a while. That's fine, then another day. Li Yixuan said, Right, what about the thing I told you last time? Do you want me to find you a decent job? After all, the renovation isn't done by us college students. No need. I'm not a renovation worker. Yang Ming said with some helplessness, I didn't explain it last time. Ah. Li Yixuan was stunned. He thought that Yang Ming was embarrassed, so he said, It's nothing. I'm not looking down on you. Really, Yang Ming, I just want to help you, just like how you gave me the idea. I'm very grateful to you. I want to find an opportunity to repay you. Seeing Li Yixuan's sincerity, Yang Ming was a little embarrassed. I just gave Li Yixuan a bad idea. Li Yixuan actually believed it and was very grateful to me. Ugh, then let's talk about it later. I really have something to do today. Li Yixuan's enthusiasm made Yang Ming blush. He took out the car remote control, opened the door, and left like a fugitive. Seeing Yang Ming drive away in the BMW, Li Yixuan was stunned. Is it so profitable to do renovation? Can you afford a BMW? In the private room of Heavenly Earth, Yang Ming saw Zhang Dejuan. President Yang. Zhang Dejuan arrived a little earlier than Yang Ming. When he saw Yang Ming come in, he quickly stood up and greeted him. Zhang Dejuan was quite tactful in dealing with people. He saw that Yang Ming wasn't ordinary, so he naturally flattered him tightly. I'm sorry, President Zhang. I just met a friend and was delayed for a while. Yang Ming said politely. I just arrived, too. Zhang Dejuan said indifferently, President Yang, what is the special interview you mentioned? This is the case. I want to shoot an exclusive interview and invite the designer who designs jewelry for our company to talk about the feelings and concepts of jewelry design. Yang Ming told his idea to Zhang Dejuan. In this way, it can be regarded as a disguised response to the recent doubts. Great, great. Zhang Dejuan heard the key to it all at once. In this way, those rumors will be self-defeating. But I really didn't expect President Yang's strength to be so great. You invited internationally renowned designers. You go back and study it. Come up with a plan, but the specific shooting will be handed over to the foreign company. Yang Ming said. Okay, no problem. I will go back and ask Qi Ren to seriously discuss this matter. Zhang Dejuan said. Yang Ming could actually find a foreign company to take full responsibility, but after all, it wasn't as convenient to communicate with the local people. On Zhang Dejuan's side, Yang Ming could put forward his own suggestions at any time and let him improve. However, looking for a foreign company, the national conditions of the two countries were different, and the language was different. It was very inconvenient to communicate. It was better to make a plan on his side and let the other side shoot according to this idea. After telling Zhang Dejun his thoughts and intentions, the two people hurriedly ate something. Zhang Dejun left and went back to the company to prepare for this matter. Yang Ming looked at the huge sign at the door of Earthly Paradise. Suddenly, he had a bad idea. He took out the phone and dialed Lin Jiyun. Lin Jiyun was eating at home. Her cell phone was in the bedroom. When Xin Wuping went to the kitchen, she just heard Lin Jiyun's cell phone ring. She took it and glanced at the caller ID on it. She said to Lin Jiyun, "Yang Ming's call." Oh. Lin Jiyun didn't think much and picked up the phone. After all, her parents knew about her relationship with Yang Ming. There was nothing to avoid. "Hello. Jiyun, where are you? I'll pick you up," Yang Ming said. "Pick me up? What are you going to do?" "I'm eating at home. Uncle is there," Lin Jiyun said strangely. Chapter 739. Is he Lulu here too? Yang Ming remembered the play that he Jibwa and Old Yao performed together. "And, then you come and pick me up. I'll tell you later." When Lin Jiyun heard Yang Ming ask this, she thought that he wanted to know about He Lulu and her uncle's situation. The last time Yang Ming gave her a task, she also got some information from He Lulu's mouth. Yang Ming didn't expect Lin Jiyun to agree to come out with him so quickly. After all, it was a little late. Lin Jiyun didn't say much. She told her mother, Xin Wuping, that Yang Ming was looking for her to go shopping. Xin Wuping naturally agreed without hesitation. When Yang Ming arrived, Lin Jiyun had already packed up, but Lin Jiyun's uncle, He Lulu, Xin Wuping, and Lin Chongqing were still chatting at the dinner table. He Lulu didn't have the previous arrogance. She sat at the table very weakly, but she was very quiet. Listening to Xin Yifeng and Xin Wuping talking about their childhood, she smiled from time to time. She also ate the ordinary food on the table with relish. Yang Ming was too lazy to talk to her. He just greeted Xin Yifeng, Xin Wuping, and Lin Chongqing, then he hurried out with Lin Jiyun. After seeing Yang Ming's powerful strength, Xin Yifeng sighed from the bottom of his heart. His sister's family had turned over a new leaf. He Lulu's family had experienced a great change. It seemed that the family was about to be ruined, but Yang Ming's driver solved the problem easily. This strength was simply amazing. Later, he learned from chatting with Xin Wuping that his niece, Lin Jiyun, also became the general manager of the jewelry company. He was even more surprised. Although the scale of the jewelry company couldn't be said to be particularly large, it was at least 10 times larger than He Jibwa's company. Thinking of He Lulu's arrogance, he couldn't help but feel ashamed. Lin Jiyun's boyfriend was much richer than her, but he wasn't as flamboyant as her. Uncle and Auntie He are nothing special. Obviously, Lin Jiyun felt awkward calling He Lulu Auntie He. He Lulu was only a few years older than her and Yang Ming, but because of the seniority, Lin Jiyun had to call her Auntie He. Yang Ming nodded. He Lulu didn't seem like the kind of person who could act. Then, what was going on between her and Xin Yifeng? In fact, Yang Ming really wronged He Lulu. He Lulu didn't know anything about her father, He Jibwa, and Old Yao's plan. He Lulu didn't even know that her father was responsible for the rise and fall of a tribe. He Jibwa didn't want his daughter to participate too much in these things because he hid in Songjiang early. In the eyes of outsiders, he lived a very ordinary and normal life. As for He Lulu and Xin Yifeng being together, it was a complete coincidence. The appearance of Yang Ming came into He Jibwa's sight because of his relationship with Lan Ling. As for the relationship between Yang Ming and other girls, He Jibwa didn't care about it at first. For Xin Yifeng, He Jibwa naturally had to investigate. Which parent didn't care about their children's marriage? In the beginning, when He Jibwa investigated Xin Yifeng, he found that he was just a poor boy. He only had one sister in the country, and he didn't seem to be very rich. Therefore, He Zhibua began to strongly oppose the relationship between He Lulu and Shen Yifeng. However, when he sent people to investigate Shen Yifeng's sister in Songjiang, he inadvertently saw a very important piece of information. That was, Shen Yueping's daughter was actually one of Yang Ming's women. Of course, this was after Yang Ming let Lin Jiyun serve as the jewelry company's manager. Before that, the relationship between Yang Ming and Lin Jiyun was still in an underground state. Most people wouldn't notice it. Therefore, He Zhibua's attitude had a 180-degree change, and he acted out such a scene at the last minute. He Zhibua didn't like to gamble, but he was very restrained. He wasn't the kind of person who was addicted to gambling. This time, only Du Duzi was kept in the dark about this matter. Of course, Yang Ming naturally couldn't guess the twists and turns in this. He found some clues at the last minute that day, and he thought that He Lulu was also involved. Forget it. Don't bother with them. Yang Ming was already full of lice. There were too many inexplicable things recently. It was useless to think about it now. He just had to wait for them to jump out by themselves. However, it was still necessary to be on guard at all times. Yang Ming intended to ask Bao Sanli to investigate and see what this He Zhibua had done in the past few years. Ah, you don't care. Then why did you ask me out? Lin Jiyun was a bit puzzled. She thought that Yang Ming asked her out in a hurry because of He Lulu's matter. She didn't expect Yang Ming to say that he didn't care. I'll take you to a place. Yang Ming smiled mysteriously. Where? Lin Jiyun asked, baffled. You will know when we get there. Yang Ming said and stopped talking. When the car stopped at the door of Heavenly World, Lin Jiyun looked at it in surprise. Why did you bring me here? For a long time before, Lin Jiyun was very resistant to this place called Heavenly World. After all, she lost her first time here. Every time she passed by here in the car, Lin Jiyun would lower her head and not let her attention be on it. However, later, as her relationship with Yang Ming warmed up, until she had the most intimate relationship with Yang Ming 2 days ago, Lin Jiyun didn't have the previous resistance to this place. Instead, she missed it. In any case, this was the place where she and Yang Ming had their first time. It should be memorable, but both of them weren't very awake at that time, and Lin Jiyun didn't experience any fun. It was a very regrettable thing. Now that Yang Ming took her to visit the old place, Lin Jiyun thought about it a little and understood that Yang Ming and she should have the same idea. That time. I'm really sorry. Yang Ming looked at Lin Jiyun and said very sincerely. Why are you still saying this now? Lin Jiyun smiled. You didn't come here just to say sorry to me, right? That's not it. Do you want to go up and experience it again? Yang Ming asked vaguely. Experience what? Lin Jiyun pretended not to understand. You will know when you go up. As Yang Ming said, he got out of the car and opened the door of the passenger seat from the other side. He took Lin Jiyun's hand and walked to Heavenly World. Brother Yang. The security guards at the door knew Yang Ming. When they saw Yang Ming coming, they quickly greeted him. Yang Ming nodded and said to Lin Jiyun next to him, this was originally the property of Wang Jitao's family. Now it is mine. Ah. Lin Jiyun didn't know that Heavenly World was also the property of the Wang family. At this moment, she heard Yang Ming say it. Speaking of it, I have to thank Wang Jitao. Yang Ming shrugged and said. Why thank him? Lin Jiyun didn't understand. If it weren't for him, how could the two of us be together? If it weren't because he schemed against the two of us, I wouldn't be determined to mess with him, and I wouldn't get so many properties. Yang Ming said seriously. Lin Jiyun's face blushed, but she had to admit that Wang Jitao was really a matchmaker between the two of them. When they just entered the hotel lobby, a waiter came over respectfully and handed the room card to Yang Ming. It was still the same room at that time. When they entered the door, Yang Ming pretended to be casual and said, "I asked several of the waiters at that time, but they didn't see the bed sheet. It's a pity. I still want to keep it as a souvenir." What bed sheet? Lin Jiyun vaguely seemed to know what Yang Ming was going to say, and said with some embarrassment, "It's the bed sheet that we used at that time." Yang Ming continued, "If it really doesn't work, I will ask Xia Shui to see if she has seen it." "You, don't ask, the bed sheet is with me." Lin Jiyun was shy, but she had to tell Yang Ming directly. She was really afraid that Yang Ming would ask Xia Shui. Yang Ming actually guessed this a long time ago. He just deliberately made the atmosphere ambiguous. After all, he asked Lin Jiyun to come over and get a room at night. He was afraid that Lin Jiyun would have some thoughts. Yang Ming locked the door and closed the curtains. Here, he wasn't worried that someone would install any secret camera. If that was the case, then this person really didn't want to live. "What are you going to do?" Lin Jiyun faintly guessed what Yang Ming was going to do. Lin Jiyun knew it from the moment she entered the heavenly earth world. "You know." Yang Ming walked slowly to Lin Jiyun. Lin Jiyun didn't speak, but gently closed her eyes. Her long eyelashes were slightly raised, which was particularly beautiful. Yang Ming lowered his head slightly and kissed Lin Jiyun's lips. Lin Jiyun's breathing became rapid in an instant. Her hands were tightly wrapped around Yang Ming's body. Men and women in love didn't need too many words. More often than not, they would use body language to express their love for each other. Since Lin Jiyun had already thought it through, she wouldn't refuse Yang Ming. Soon, the two people hugged on the bed naked. "Can you not go home at night?" The man and woman who had been crazy for nearly an hour finally rested. Yang Ming asked Lin Jiyun. "I don't know." Shen Yueping already knew about the relationship between Lin Jiyun and Yang Ming. She didn't have to deliberately hide it from her, but she was still embarrassed to not go back in the middle of the night. "Then I'll call Auntie Shen." Yang Ming knew that Lin Jiyun was shy, so he took out his mobile phone and prepared to call Shen Yueping. Just as he was about to dial, the ringtone of the mobile phone happened to ring. From this angle, Lin Jiyun could just see the caller ID above. However, when she saw the name of the person above, she was suddenly scared. She leaned into Yang Ming's arms and said with some fear, I'd better go home." She had to face what she had to face. Yang Ming sighed and patted Lin Jiyun's back. He comforted her, "It's nothing. Don't think too much." Chapter 740. Yang Ming sighed and picked up the phone. He didn't hide it from Lin Jiyun because this kind of thing had to be faced in the end. It was useless to escape. "Meng Yan." Yang Ming picked up the phone. "Yang Ming, what are you doing?" Chen Mingyan's tone sounded unusually calm. However, it was because it was too calm that Yang Ming felt that it was abnormal. It was reasonable to say that usually when Chen Mengyan called him, her tone was very relaxed and pleasant, even with a hint of coquettishness. However, it wasn't like this today. Yang Ming hesitated and decided to tell the truth. "I am with Lin Jiyun." When Yang Ming said this, he obviously felt that Lin Jiyun's hand that grabbed his arm became abnormally strong. Her nails were about to be embedded in Yang Ming's flesh. Yang Ming gently stroked Lin Jiyun's body and comforted her not to be nervous. "Where?" Chen Mengyan continued to ask calmly. "At Heavenly Earth." Yang Ming replied truthfully. On the other side, Chen Mengyan was silent. Yang Ming's mood wasn't much better than Lin Jiyun's. He was also very nervous. He didn't know what Chen Mengyan would do. Although Chen Mengyan said that she accepted Lin Jiyun, words and actions were different. Mengyan. Yang Ming saw that Chen Mengyan didn't speak, so he called her. Fortunately, you didn't lie to me this time. Chen Mengyan's voice was a little bitter, but it could be heard that there was no dissatisfaction in her tone. I won't lie to you again. Yang Ming's heart trembled. He hid everything from Chen Mengyan. It was quite harmful to Chen Mengyan. However, what made Yang Ming feel strange was that how did Chen Mengyan know that he wasn't lying to her now? Could it be, Yang Ming suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Chen Mengyan couldn't have seen something, right? Alright, I believe you. Chen Mengyan's voice sounded hollow, but there was no emotion in it. After a pause, she suddenly asked, which room are you in? Ha! Yang Ming was stunned. I'll be downstairs. I've been waiting for you for an hour. If I go up now, it shouldn't affect you, right? Chen Mengyan said indifferently. Mengyan. Yang Ming was shocked. Chen Mengyan was actually downstairs and waited there for an hour before calling him. Listening to Chen Mengyan's words, she had already seen Yang Ming and Lin Jiyun, but she didn't bother them. Instead, she waited quietly until it was almost time before she called. Why? It's not over yet. Chen Mengyan said with some self-deprecation, I haven't done it before. I don't know how long it takes. Then, I'm sorry to bother you. You can call me later, no. Mengyan, I'm in 3:15. You, come up. Yang Ming braced himself and said. Okay, wait for me. Chen Mengyan finished and hung up the phone. She knows everything. Lin Jiyun looked at Yang Ming with some horror and didn't know what to do. And Mengyan is downstairs. She will come up soon. Yang Ming said with some embarrassment. Then, what should I do? What should I do? Lin Jiyun hurriedly got up from the bed and hurriedly put on her clothes. It's okay. Mengyan, she is still very reasonable. When he said this, Yang Ming himself was a little guilty. Who knew if Chen Mengyan would make a scene this time? However, listening to Chen Mengyan's tone on the phone, it was completely different from the past. Chen Mengyan was the kind of girl who wrote her emotions on her face. She didn't know how to hide it. Yang Ming and Lin Jiyun just got dressed properly, and there was a knock on the door. From downstairs to upstairs, it was fast to take the elevator. Lin Jiyun subconsciously stood up from the bed, and Yang Ming walked to the door with difficulty and opened the door. There was a feeling of being caught in bed, which was very irritating. Chen Mengyan looked at Yang Ming with a blank expression and looked into the room. She saw Lin Jiyun standing there, nervously rubbing her hands. She didn't talk to Yang Ming. She bypassed him directly and went into the room. We actually have nothing, that. I'm sorry, I'm going home. Lin Jiyun lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Chen Mengyan. She stuttered. Since there is nothing, why are you apologizing to me? Looking at Lin Jiyun's pitiful look, Chen Mengyan's mouth showed a playful smile. It seemed that she was still very afraid of her. Chen Mengyan also felt slightly relieved. Sometimes, a woman could tolerate a man's playfulness outside, but it was difficult to tolerate her man having a lover outside. The reason was actually very simple. Playfulness was nothing. Those prostitutes or one-night stands couldn't threaten their status, but lovers were different. Lovers were likely to replace their position. Lin Jiyun didn't know how to explain it. She was very scared. It was like stealing someone else's things and being caught on the spot. Seeing Lin Jiyun's appearance, Chen Mengyan couldn't harden her heart anymore. Originally, she wanted to say a few strong words to let Lin Jiyun know that she was Yang Ming's real girlfriend. She also wanted to warn Lin Jiyun not to have any thoughts of replacing her. Although Chen Mengyan also intended to accept her, some words still had to be said clearly. However, at this moment, these words didn't seem to be necessary. Looking at Lin Jiyun's appearance, Chen Mengyan didn't have any resentment. She was just more annoyed with Yang Ming. Another poor girl was deceived by Yang Ming. Chen Mengyan took Lin Jiyun's hand. Her tone also became calm. Come, don't be afraid. Let's sit down and talk. I don't want to sit. I'll just stand. Lin Jiyun shook her head nervously. Chen Mengyan frowned. With such a weak temperament, wouldn't she be bullied by Yang Ming? She glared at Yang Ming and said, "What are you doing here?" Me? Yang Ming was inexplicable by Chen Mengyan's words. You go out first. Let's talk. Chen Mengyan reached out and pointed at the door. She said without mercy. Yang Ming looked at Chen Mengyan and looked at Lin Jiyun, who was held by her hand. He couldn't see any trace of anger from Chen Mengyan. He shook his head helplessly and walked out of the door. Yang Ming knew that Chen Mengyan must have something to say to Lin Jiyun. If he was here, he would be a hindrance. Outside the door, Yang Ming gently closed the door. He took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket and put one in his mouth. A security guard in Heavenly Earth quickly ran over and lit it for Yang Ming. Yang Ming took a puff and looked at the closed door. He was very melancholy. Chen Mengyan, what exactly does she want to talk to Lin Jiyun about? Yang Ming was somewhat uneasy. He hesitated whether to use his special ability to see the situation inside, but he saw Shuya coming out of the elevator. Her agent, Su Li, was with her. Hey! Yang Ming. Shuya was stunned. Su Li hadn't seen Yang Ming yet, but she saw him first. Shuya was naturally very sensitive to Yang Ming. Even in a group of people, she could easily find him. However, Su Li was a little slower. When she heard Shuya call out Yang Ming's name, she looked over here and saw Yang Ming. Shuya, why did you come to the third floor? Yang Ming was a bit baffled. The third floor was a guest room. Why did Shuya come here? Shuya looked helpless and said with a bitter face, a friend came from Hong Kong and followed me to live here. He wanted to go up to see me. I didn't want him to know which room I was in, so I could only come down. At this time, a door not far away opened. A young man in his 20s came out from inside and called Shuya directly, "Little Ya, I just heard your voice at the door." When Shuya saw Zhong Xiaotian come over, she couldn't say anything more to Yang Ming. She had to smile apologetically and said to Yang Ming, "My father's friend's young master, Zhong Xiaotian." Shuya's introduction was also to draw a clear line with Zhong Xiaotian. She didn't want Yang Ming to misunderstand anything. In this way, it became that Shuya had no choice. She couldn't change their friendship. Yang Ming glanced at Zhong Xiaotian. From his eyes just now, Yang Ming knew that this guy was Shuya's supporter. He is. Seeing a young man standing next to Shuya, Zhong Xiaotian was slightly stunned and asked. The organizer of the concert. Shuya didn't want to introduce more. She thought that there was no need to say too much to Zhong Xiaotian. Oh. Zhong Xiaotian was relieved and nodded to Yang Ming. Then, he said, "Sir, Miss Xu and I are good friends. I came from Hong Kong to see her. Do you have any work to discuss another day?" Yang Ming didn't want to care much about this, so he said, "I'm fine. You guys can talk." Shuya quietly raised her right hand and gently waved it in front of her chest. She made a goodbye gesture to Yang Ming and followed Zhong Xiaotian to his room with Su Li. Yang Ming looked at Xu Ye's gesture and was a little stunned. How familiar is this gesture? Once upon a time, when Suya was separated from me every day, she also liked to say goodbye to me like this. This woman is really getting more and more mysterious. Yang Ming couldn't help but frown. The person just now looked very familiar. Zhong Xiaotian walked and said to himself, I seem to have seen him somewhere. Really? Shuya didn't care and responded casually. She didn't think that Zhong Xiaotian had the opportunity to see Yang Ming. Forget it. Who cares about him? He isn't an important person. Zhong Xiaotian shook his head and didn't think about this. He followed Shuya to Songjiang. Naturally, he wanted to cultivate more feelings with Shuya. How could he have time to care about others? Shuya thought, you aren't an important person. If it weren't for Uncle Zhong's face, how could I have time to sit down and talk to you? Chapter 741. For Zhong Xiaotian, Yang Ming had no impression of him. When he was in Hong Kong, he didn't meet Zhong Xiaotian. Moreover, the two guys that Zhong Xiaotian sent to find trouble with Yang Ming, Chicken Eye and Brother He, were also killed by Feng Dao and He Shu by accident. As for Zhong Xiaotian, although he was afraid for a while afterward, he didn't see Yang Ming appear again, so he forgot about it. When he saw Yang Ming just now, although he felt that he was familiar, he didn't remember that this person was the person who bought the ring at the auction. When they entered the room, Yang Ming turned around and wanted to see what was going on in the room. At this time, the door opened. Chen Mengyan poked her head out and said to Yang Ming in a simple tone, you come in. Oh. Yang Ming didn't know what Chen Mengyan was going to do, but he braced himself and went in. Don't you know how to close the door? Chen Mengyan saw Yang Ming standing at the door stupidly and rolled her eyes at him. You don't want everyone to know about your family's matters, right? Yang Ming closed the door and looked at Lin Jiyun and Chen Mengyan, who were sitting side by side on the bed. The two didn't seem to have quarreled. On the contrary, they seemed to be somewhat harmonious. Yang Ming walked carefully to the bed. Just as he was about to sit down, he heard Chen Mengyan say, Did I ask you to sit down? Yang Ming was shocked. His butt seemed to be equipped with a spring, and he stood up again. Sister Yen, you let him sit down. Looking at Yang Ming's embarrassed look, Lin Jiyun said with some sympathy. Chen Mengyan frowned and turned to look at Lin Jiyun. She flattened her mouth and said with an exasperated look, You, really? We just agreed to interrogate him together. Why did you start to feel distressed after letting him stand for a while? AI. When Yang Ming heard Chen Mengyan's words, he knew that the two women must have reached a consensus in the room. However, Lin Jiyun turned her head and became a spy. Lin Jiyun blushed and was very embarrassed. She also said it subconsciously and didn't think too much. At this time, she quickly apologized. I'm sorry, Sister Yen, forget it. You sit down. Chen Mengyan didn't want to embarrass Lin Jiyun, so she pointed her finger at Yang Ming. Just now, when Yang Ming entered the room and sat on the bed, he didn't think too much. But now, he was in a dilemma. Should I sit on Lin Jiyun's side or Chen Mengyan's side? Logically, Chen Mengyan was his real girlfriend. It was natural for him to sit on her side. However, he felt sorry for Lin Jiyun. He just did it with her, and she was left out. It wasn't right. It couldn't be helped. Yang Ming had to bite the bullet and come between Chen Mengyan and Lin Jiyun. He turned around and wanted to sit down. What are you doing? Chen Mengyan pushed Yang Ming angrily and said, I asked you to sit down. Why are you still pushing your luck? Go to the side. Although Lin Jiyun and Chen Mengyan were very close, there was still some distance between the two, so Yang Ming had the opportunity to take advantage of it. However, Chen Mingyan's words helped Yang Ming out. Yang Ming no longer sat on the bed, but sat on the opposite sofa. Sister Yen. I'll go first. Lin Jiyun couldn't stand the tense atmosphere. She stood up and said carefully. What should I say to you? Chen Mengyan looked at Lin Jiyun's pitiful look. She was annoyed and amused. You are really weaker than Sister Lin in Dream of the Red Chamber. You will be bullied to death by Yang Ming in the future. Sister Yen. I'm sorry. Lin Jiyun saw that Chen Mengyan was angry and quickly apologized. Forget it. I don't care about you. You are willing to be bullied to death by him. I'm the bad guy. Chen Mengyan said helplessly, let's go together. Let's ask Yang Ming to send you back. It's so late. I'm worried even if he is relieved. Yang Ming was amused. It turned out that Chen Mengyan was venting for Lin Jiyun. In other words, Chen Mengyan was using Lin Jiyun's matter to vent her anger on him. It was no wonder when he thought about it. Lin Jiyun was actually just a victim of the struggle between Wang Jitao and himself. The struggle between Wang Jitao and himself was because of Chen Mengyan. Therefore, even if Chen Mengyan was angry, it was impossible to vent it on Lin Jiyun. With Chen Mengyan's character, she would most likely sympathize with Lin Jiyun. Chen Mengyan was such a person. She had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. When she didn't see Lin Jiyun, she was very disgusted with her. When she really saw her, she began to sympathize with her. Moreover, Lin Jiyun called Chen Mengyan as elder sister Yen. Presumably, Chen Mengyan had acquiesced to her existence. In fact, according to the time calculation, Lin Jiyun was Yang Ming's first woman. Strictly speaking, she also had the opportunity to compete for the first wife. But since she didn't care about this, Yang Ming was happy to see it. Originally, Chen Mengyan also wanted to take the opportunity to intimidate Yang Ming to see if he still had something to hide from her. However, because of Lin Jiyun's interference, she couldn't ask anything and had to give up. The three of them went downstairs and came to the parking lot downstairs. There was only one passenger seat. If Chen Mengyan or Lin Jiyun were alone with Yang Ming, then they would definitely sit in the passenger seat. However, both of them were there at the same time, but no one took the initiative to sit in the passenger seat. Instead, they all sat in the back. On the road, Yang Ming drove carefully and didn't dare to say much. Yang Ming was also very puzzled as to why Chen Mengyan suddenly appeared at Earthly Paradise. She just happened to witness him and Lin Jiyun going to a hotel. However, these words couldn't be asked now. He could only wait until there was a chance in the future. After sending Lin Jiyun back to the door, Yang Ming didn't dare to accompany Lin Jiyun back. He just told her outside the car to rest well and not to think too much. Lin Jiyun smiled shyly and whispered to Yang Ming, elder sister Yen is a very good person. She is actually not really angry. You have to deal with it carefully later. Yang Ming was very happy. It seemed that Lin Jiyun's character was destined to be unable to form an alliance with Chen Mengyan to deal with him. Watching Lin Jiyun go away, Yang Ming returned to the car and carefully said to Chen Mengyan, who was sitting in the back, "Dear, sit in the front." "No." Chen Mengyan shook her head firmly. Yang Ming sighed and didn't insist. He started the car and said, "That's fine. Where are we going now?" Chen Mengyan didn't speak, but she looked out of the window and was in a daze. Yang Ming couldn't be helped. He had to drive the car around the city first. His heart was also in a mess. Some things were involuntary, but this couldn't be a reason for him to escape. He had to find a way to solve this matter. Now it seemed that the ending was satisfactory, but Yang Ming also knew that no matter how kind and tolerant Chen Mengyan was, she would always have some temper. Who was willing to share half of their own things with others? What's more, feelings were the kind of things that couldn't be divided. The night was bright. Although the night in Songjiang wasn't as prosperous as the provincial capital, there were still many restaurants open at this time. Looking at this, Yang Ming couldn't help but feel a little hungry, but it wasn't good to ask, so he had to endure. Stop the car. Chen Mengyan suddenly spoke and said to Yang Ming in a hurry. Ah. Yang Ming was shocked and quickly stopped the car by the roadside. He didn't know what Chen Mengyan wanted to do. Chen Mengyan pushed open the back door and got out of the car. Yang Ming was shocked. He thought that Chen Mengyan was going to run away. He was about to stop the car and chase after her, but he saw Chen Mengyan open the door of the front passenger seat and get in. Before Yang Ming could react, Chen Mengyan threw herself on him. Why are you so fickle in love? Chen Mengyan hugged Yang Ming, and tears flowed down. What should I do? I don't know what I should do. You have other women. I can only accept it with a smile. Yang Ming looked at Chen Mengyan's sad voice and understood in his heart. Which woman would be happy when she encountered such a thing? Although Chen Mengyan had been very generous in front of Lin Jiyun, it was completely against her heart. There was no way. She had to face the mistakes made by Yang Ming together. For Lin Jiyun, an innocent girl, Chen Mengyan couldn't blame her. Yang Ming hugged Chen Mengyan's soft body. He was very upset. He patted her back gently and didn't know what to say to comfort her. A woman's heart is easily filled by a man. I don't want to lose you, so I can only choose to accept it. Chen Mengyan said with grievance. Yang Ming didn't want to say anything sorry because it wasn't necessary. What was the use of apologizing? He just quietly hugged Chen Mengyan and listened to her talk. After a while, Chen Mengyan separated from Yang Ming's body. She took 2 pieces of facial tissue from the car and wiped her tears. She smiled and said, after complaining, my mood is much better. Fortunately, I'm young. I don't need to wear makeup. Otherwise, I would have cried until my face was ruined. Yang Ming didn't say anything. He just looked at Chen Mengyan affectionately. This somewhat capricious and proud girl had made such a big change for him. If it were half a year ago, Yang Ming wouldn't believe that these words would come from Chen Mengyan's mouth. Even a month ago, when the incident with Zhao Ying and Zhou Jiejie didn't happen, Chen Mengyan still wouldn't compromise so easily, but now, although this was good news, Yang Ming wasn't happy at all. On the contrary, his heart was very uncomfortable. This was a girl who he loved and loved for a lifetime. If there was a next life, or if time could go back and he didn't get this special ability, Yang Ming hoped that he could spend a lifetime with her, but now... Why are you looking at me? Drive. Chen Mengyan saw that Yang Ming was staring at her, and she was embarrassed. Where are we going? Asked Yang Ming. Heavenly Earth. Chen Mengyan whispered. Chapter 742. Heavenly Earth. Yang Ming was stunned. Why are we going back to Heavenly Earth? Before Chen Mengyan answered, there was a harsh siren outside the car window. Several police cars flashed their lights and roared past. Is there a big operation at Uncle Chen's place today? Yang Ming looked strangely at the police cars in succession and asked. I don't know. It seems that my dad has a mission. Why would he tell me these things? Originally, the atmosphere in the car was just right, and there was a touch of ambiguity. However, it was destroyed by Yang Ming's casual question. Chen Mengyan was naturally a little annoyed and said snappily. Oh. I see. Yang Ming didn't care. He started the car and asked, You just said that we are going to Heavenly Earth. Why are we going back? Before Chen Mengyan spoke, the phone rang at this time. Chen Mengyan took out the phone and glanced at it. She made a silent gesture to Yang Ming and picked up the phone. Hello. Mom, what's the matter? It was unknown what was said on the other side of the phone, but Chen Mingyan's expression suddenly changed. Mom, what did you say? Okay, I got it. I will be there right away. What's wrong? Yang Ming felt that something was wrong. After Chen Mengyan hung up the phone, he quickly asked. My dad just had a car accident, at the First People's Hospital. Chen Mingyan's tone changed. She was crying and frightened. What? You said that Uncle Chen had a car accident? Yang Ming was shocked when he heard Chen Mingyan's words. Is it dangerous? I'm not sure. My mom is also on the way. Let's hurry over. Chen Mengyan said in a hurry. Okay. Yang Ming quickly turned the car around and rushed to the First People's Hospital. Along the way, Chen Mengyan bit her lip and lowered her head. She kept looking at the time on the phone, but she didn't open her mouth to urge Yang Ming. She didn't want Yang Ming to have another car accident. However, Yang Ming didn't think that the possibility of an accident was high. Although the speed was very fast, Yang Ming could see the movement in a few kilometers ahead at a glance. Whether it was a corner or a fork, Yang Ming could be prepared in advance. All the way to the People's Hospital. Downstairs of the hospital, they saw several police cars with flashing lights. Obviously, they had just arrived. They were the ones that Yang Ming had just seen. Yang Ming and Chen Mengyan knew several police officers here. Among them, there was the police officer surnamed Kai that they met at the entrance of Chen Mengyan's home. There was also a deputy captain that Yang Ming had seen before. His surname was Li. Yang Ming's car came and parked side by side beside the police car. Obviously, it also attracted the attention of Police Officer Kai and Captain Li. When they saw Yang Ming and Chen Mengyan get out of the car, they immediately ran over. Mengyan, little Yang, you are here, Uncle Kai, how is my father? Hearing that Chen Fei's life was not in danger, everyone was relieved. However, when Mother Chen heard that her husband's calf was comminuted, she couldn't help but worry. Doctor, then Chen Fei's leg will have any problems in the future? If this recovers, there is no problem in walking normally, but it is impossible to participate in any long-distance running. The doctor explained, also, if it rains on cloudy days, the leg may hurt. That's good. That's good. When Bureau Chief Wang heard the doctor's words, he was afraid that Mother Chen would be worried. He quickly persuaded, Chen Fei is not young anymore. In the future, he will do the command and coordination work. The specific errands will be done by the young people. Mother Chen also knew that this was already a blessing in the misfortune. Even if he really became a cripple, it was better than not being alive. After signing, everyone went to the hospital to wait. When Chen Mengyan heard that her father's life was not in danger, she was relieved. Bureau Chief Wang asked Deputy Captain Li to pay the bill and go through the hospitalization procedures. Because it was a car accident during the execution of a mission, it was a work injury. The Bureau bore all the medical expenses. Several people sat in the lounge. After a while, a young man came in with a circle of gauze wrapped around his head. When he saw Bureau Chief Wang, he was very embarrassed and said, Bureau Chief Wang. Okay, no one wants this to happen. You tell me what the situation was at that time. Bureau Chief Wang waved his hand and said, Zhao, you drive very steadily. What happened this time? Zhao was Chen Fei's driver. His injury was not serious. He just hit his head and got 3 stitches. It was not a big problem. He also felt guilty for breaking Chen Fei's leg. Bureau Chief Wang. I saw a ghost. Zhao said carefully. What? Bureau Chief Wang was stunned, then he immediately frowned and said, Zhao, what nonsense are you talking about? What ghost? How can there be ghosts in this world? Bureau Chief Wang. I know you definitely don't believe it, but I did see a ghost. A person without half of his head in the middle of the road, and he was running toward me. When Zhao said this, his eyes showed horror. Apparently, he was scared. But how could Bureau Chief Wang believe in ghosts? After working in police work for most of his life, he had dealt with many dead people. How could he believe Zhao's words? Zhao, are you drunk? What nonsense are you talking about? Bureau Chief Wang couldn't help but shout, when young people make mistakes, just admit it. No one will blame you. It's not that we can't understand if you say that you were distracted and accidentally got into a car accident, but the reason you came up with is too ridiculous, right? Bureau Chief Wang. I really saw it. I didn't lie to you. Zhao was still defending himself. You. Bureau Chief Wang was obviously angry with him. He pointed at Zhao, and his body trembled a little. Bureau Chief Wang, don't be angry. Zhao may have been overly frightened. He is not sober now. Deputy Captain Li quickly persuaded. Forget it. Bureau Chief Wang waved his hand. Send him back to rest first. Come to the bureau tomorrow and report the details. Looking at the gauze on Zhao's head, Bureau Chief Wang couldn't say anything more. Maybe Deputy Captain Li was right. Zhao was frightened and his head was injured. He may not be sober at this time. Wait. Xia Shui just came in at this time and heard Zhao's words. She quickly said, Zhao, you said you saw a ghost. Are you sure? Xia Shui, you are a police officer. How can you believe in things like ghosts? Bureau Chief Wang said with some displeasure. No, Bureau Chief Wang, you forgot about the previous car accident of the two foreigners. The forensic examination said that it seemed that the two people were extremely frightened before they died. Xia Shui reminded. You mean these two foreigners also saw ghosts? Bureau Chief Wang just said halfway and suddenly said, I understand. You mean, someone is pretending to be a ghost to scare people, right? Xia Shui nodded. She was responsible for the haunted case in the hospital, so she was very sensitive to this kind of thing. Bureau Chief Wang also thought of the case Xia Shui was now responsible for, and he suddenly realized. However, this person is standing in the middle of the road pretending to be a ghost. Isn't he afraid of being hit by a car? This doesn't seem to make sense, right? Bureau Chief Wang immediately rejected this idea. Maybe this person's mental state is abnormal, said Xia Shui. People who come out to pretend to be ghosts to scare people must be mentally abnormal people. That's fine. Since you have doubts, you will be responsible for following up on this matter. Bureau Chief Wang obviously didn't agree with Xia Shui's guess, but since Xia Shui was responsible for this kind of case, he might as well let her investigate it. Chapter 743. But it must be low-key. Edward's identity is very special. It can't be exposed. Chief Wang whispered. The voice was so low that only Xia Shui on the side could hear it. The others present couldn't hear it. However, no one would deliberately listen. After all, there were organizational disciplines. Some tasks were to be carried out secretly. However, Yang Ming had been paying attention to Chief Wang. Although he couldn't hear Chief Wang's words, he could see Chief Wang's mouth shape clearly. Two foreigners. Edward. Yang Ming's heart moved. Could it be that these two guys died in a car accident? No wonder I haven't seen these two guys jump out again in the past few days. Logically, such a big thing as Edward and Little Dorsk's car accident should be reported in the newspaper. However, when the police checked the identities of the two people, they found that Edward was a terrorist wanted by Interpol. This person originally worked for a mercenary group in Africa and participated in several terrorist attacks. Edward's original name wasn't Edward. Edward was a fake identity after he quit the mercenary group. Therefore, this kind of thing involved some confidential things. It couldn't be made public, so the newspaper didn't report it. Although Yang Ming didn't know the specific inside story of the matter, he saw that Chief Wang lowered his voice, and these things weren't reported. He understood that it was definitely not suitable to be made public. So, he didn't ask anything. Chief Wang asked Xia Shui to drive Zhao back and ask him about seeing ghosts. Since Chen Fei was fine, Chief Wang and the other leaders also greeted Mother Qin and left first. The people left, leaving only Mother Qin, Yang Ming, Chen Mengyan, and a few policemen in the criminal investigation team. Yang Ming, you send little Yen home first. Mother Qin said, I'm fine here. It's useless if all of you are here. Mom. I want to stay here with Dad. Chen Mengyan didn't comply. Be obedient, Xiao Yen. Your dad was anesthetized during the operation. He won't wake up tonight. Mother Qin said, you go back and rest early. Come and bring some food for your dad tomorrow morning. Then, okay. Chen Mengyan also understood that her mother was telling the truth, but she still had some concerns. Then, if Dad wakes up, no matter how late it is, can you give me a call? Okay. You guys go first. I'll be fine. Old Kai and Old Li are here. Mother Qin was referring to Officer Kai and Deputy Captain Li. Director Wang was Chen Fei's leader. It was enough for him to visit Chen Fei and show his sincerity. However, Lao Kai and Deputy Captain Li were both Chen Fei's subordinates. It was normal for them to follow Chen Fei. Then, Auntie Qin, you should rest early. Yang Ming said politely. However, in his heart, he was thinking that he should inform his parents to come over tomorrow. His parents and Chen Mengyan had already met. The two families had basically agreed on the matter between him and Chen Mengyan, so it was necessary for his parents to come over. I know. You should drive slowly and pay attention to safety. Mother Qin instructed. Don't worry, Auntie Qin. Yang Ming nodded and said. He left the hospital with Chen Mengyan. Although Chen Mengyan was still a little worried, her expression at the moment was much better than before. Fortunately, Uncle Chen is fine. Yang Ming smiled kindly. This is already the best result. That's right. His leg is broken and he will be fine after a period of rest. Chen Mengyan said, it just so happens that my dad usually works and doesn't have a holiday. Just treat it as a holiday. It's best that you can think like this. Yang Ming and Chen Mengyan got in the car together and drove in the direction of Chen Mengyan's home. Chen Mengyan's mood was still not very good. Yang Ming deliberately teased her to talk. Have you been online recently? Asked Yang Ming. No. You have been busy with the company's matters recently. You are not online. I don't have many netizens on QQ, Chen Mengyan said. Oh, yes, I saw Zhang Bin's QQ signature that day. It was very funny. Yang Ming said. What signature? Chen Mengyan asked casually, why didn't I see it? Chen Mengyan also had Zhang Bin's account on QQ, you may not have noticed. Yang Ming said, he wrote, the person I admire most in my life is Su Xian. Speaking of this, Yang Ming deliberately paused. Chen Mengyan was somewhat puzzled. Su Xian in the Legend of the White Snake. Why does he admire Su Xian? He hasn't finished yet. He said, "The person I admire most in my life is Su Xian because he dares to control snakes." Yang Ming said seriously. Chen Mengyan was stunned and immediately reacted. She held back her laughter and stared at Yang Ming. "You are really disgusting." He said it. "I was just relaying it." Yang Ming said innocently. "Then you can't change to a more elegant word. For example, because he found a snake to be his girlfriend." Chen Mengyan reprimanded. "Isn't the meaning the same?" Yang Ming smiled. "That's not the same. Who said that a girlfriend must be that?" Chen Mengyan retorted with a blush. She temporarily forgot the worry in her heart. Seeing Chen Mengyan's appearance, Yang Ming's heart suddenly moved. Just now, she wanted to go to the earthly paradise. Could it be that she wants to do it with me? Yang Ming was a little uncertain. However, looking at Chen Mengyan's appearance before the association, there was an 80% possibility. However, now that there was Chen Fei's matter, Yang Ming couldn't ask Chen Mengyan about her previous thoughts. "Right, the day after tomorrow is the first concert of Shuya. Can you go?" Yang Ming changed the topic. "I don't know. Look at my father's injury. Or, you can go with Lin Jiyun." Chen Mengyan shook her head. "If you want to go, then the three of us will go together. If you don't go, what are we going to do?" Yang Ming originally thought about going separately with Lin Jiyun and Chen Mengyan. However, now that the relationship between Chen Mengyan and Lin Jiyun was clear, there was no need to act separately. It wouldn't be good. "Let's not. 3 people will be very awkward." Chen Mengyan disagreed. "Then, let's talk about it later." The car stopped downstairs at Chen Mengyan's house. Yang Ming and Chen Mengyan got off together and said, "I will send you upstairs." Chen Mengyan nodded. It was so late, and she was a little scared herself. When they came to Chen Mengyan's door, Chen Mengyan was about to take out the key to open the door. Suddenly, a man rushed down the stairs, scaring Chen Mengyan and Yang Ming. Yang Ming's attention wasn't on the corridor, so he didn't use his special ability to detect in advance. "Ah!" Chen Mengyan exclaimed, and the key in her hand almost fell to the ground. "Who is it?" Yang Ming shouted. Because this person's behavior was very strange, he didn't run down the stairs directly after coming down, but he stood not far in front of Chen Mengyan and Yang Ming. Obviously, the man was stunned by Yang Ming's shout. After a while, he said, "Who are you?" "Who am I?" Yang Ming was almost amused. "You stood up to scare people, and you still ask who I am. You are Chen Mengyan, right?" The man didn't wait for Yang Ming to answer, and he turned his head to Chen Mengyan. "You are." Chen Mengyan also frowned in doubt. She didn't seem to know the person in front of her, but he looked familiar. "I am your second uncle. Did you forget? I even hugged you when you were a child." The man grinned, revealing the wrinkles on his face. "Second uncle." Chen Mengyan stared at the person in front of her carefully. "It seems that he is really my second uncle. In my mother's photo album, I vaguely saw this person." However, when Chen Mengyan was very young, not long after her parents started working, her second uncle was sentenced to prison for embezzling a huge amount of money from the company. Although it was a huge amount, it was only 20,000 yuan. It wasn't much now, but in the early 90s, there weren't many households with 10,000 yuan. This 20,000 yuan was a huge number. Fortunately, it was returned in time, or else he wouldn't necessarily be sentenced to a heavy sentence. It's me." The man thought that Chen Mengyan recognized him, and he nodded quickly. Yang Ming looked at this person very vigilantly. Obviously, Chen Mengyan wasn't very familiar with this person, so as long as this person did something that wasn't good for Chen Mengyan, Yang Ming would immediately explode. Why are you looking for me? Chen Mengyan was still very vigilant. She quietly put the key in her hand into her pocket and leaned toward Yang Ming. This young man is your boyfriend, right? He looks like a talent. Not bad, not bad. The man turned his head and praised Yang Ming. Yang Ming frowned and said, Sir, what do you want? Even if you are Chen Mingyan's second uncle, you should have something to prove your identity, right? The man was stunned, and then a trace of anger flashed in his eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. He turned into a peaceful smile and said, You see, I forgot. Indeed, I haven't seen you for so many years. Anyone would be suspicious. I just got out of prison. This is my release letter. As he spoke, the man took out a piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to Chen Mengyan. Chen Mengyan took the paper handed over by the man and looked at it carefully. It was really a release letter. The name on it was the name of her second uncle, Chen Dazhuang. The release date was today. Yang Ming also glanced at the release letter. The photo on it was indeed the person in front of him. However, Yang Ming's heart was always vigilant. Why didn't this person rush to go home when he was just released? Instead, he came to Chen Mingyan's house. Could it be that he is looking for trouble with Qin Fei? Was his case handled by Qin Fei? However, Yang Ming glanced at the date of sentencing and denied this idea. At that time, Qin Fei had just joined the workforce. He mentioned it when chatting with his father, Yang Dehai. At that time, he was only responsible for some errands in the police station. He had not yet joined the criminal investigation team. Moreover, this kind of embezzlement case should be handled by the criminal investigation team. It had nothing to do with Qin Fei. Chapter 744. Before Yang Ming determined Chen Dazhuang's real intention, he still looked at him coldly. Seeing that Chen Mengyan didn't speak, Chen Dazhuang thought that she also doubted his identity. He was even more annoyed with Yang Ming. Just now, because of Yang Ming's doubt, Chen Dazhuang was very angry. This is my family's matter. What does it have to do with you? However, after all, he was now under someone else's roof. He had to lower his head and said patiently, Mengyan, are you doubting your uncle? This is my ID card, and the photo taken when your dad and mom got married. Look, this is me. This photo can't be fake, right? After Chen Mengyan saw the release letter, she no longer doubted Chen Dazhuang's identity. When she saw her parents' wedding photo, she was more sure that the person in front of her was the second uncle who was in prison. Chen Mengyan breathed a sigh of relief and asked, Second uncle, are you looking for my dad? Yes, but it's the same no matter who I look for. I can look for you. Chen Dazhuang nodded quickly. Look for me. Why are you looking for me? Chen Mengyan was somewhat inexplicable. When she was more than 1 year old, her second uncle was sentenced to prison. Since then, there had been no contact. If he said that he was looking for her father, it was possible. But looking for her, it seemed unlikely, right? That. I just got out of prison. I have no place to go and no money in my hands. Chen Dazhuang's original position in the company wasn't low. He was also a person who could respond to a call. Otherwise, it was impossible to have access to so much money. However, as the prison wore him down, he lost his original sharpness and arrogance. Although he still had some backbone, in order to survive, he had to lower his head to his knees. After a long time, Yang Ming finally understood that the person in front of him was here to borrow money. He suddenly said with some displeasure, You just got out of prison. You should go home. Uncle Chen and Auntie aren't here. You should come back another day. Yang Ming knew that Qin Mengyan was not the kind of person who liked to reject others, so he could only be the bad guy. However, Yang Ming was not a heartless person. The key problem was that the matter was not clear yet. Qin Fei was lying in the hospital. How could Qin Mengyan decide to lend the money herself? In fact, Qin Mengyan also wanted to refuse. After all, although the person in front of her was her uncle in name, they were basically not related by blood. Her parents were from Qin village, and almost everyone in the village had the surname Qin. In terms of relatives, she could make some connections with each other. She didn't know where this Qin Dazhuang came from. You. Qin Dazhuang was a little annoyed. He wanted to say that this had nothing to do with her, but he resisted and didn't say it. If it weren't for the desperate situation, Qin Dazhuang wouldn't come to borrow money. After calming down his mood with difficulty, Qin Dazhuang said, "My wife and I divorced. She took the child and went with another man. I have nowhere to go now. Niece, lend me some money. When I find a job in the future, I will definitely return it to you." This. Qin Mengyan was very kind. When she heard Qin Dazhuang say it so pitifully, she immediately felt compassion. Yang Ming also frowned. This person didn't seem to be lying. From his tone and expression, Qin Dazhuang seemed to be completely forced to do this. "How much do you want?" asked Yang Ming. "Ah." Qin Dazhuang was stunned. Just now, Yang Ming strongly opposed to giving him money. Now, it was Yang Ming who asked him how much money he wanted. This made Qin Dazhuang somewhat unable to respond. After a long time, he said, 300. Is that okay?" On the first day Qin Dazhuang was released from prison, he found that the outside world had changed dramatically. Especially the prices, which were much more expensive than before. The tofu pudding that used to cost 3 cents now cost 2 yuan. The sesame seed cake that used to cost 5 cents for 3 now cost 8 cents. Therefore, the minimum standard for Qin Dazhuang's meal became 3 yuan, which was about 10 yuan a day. Qin Dazhuang calculated that even if he slept at the train station or the bus station every night, he would need about 300 yuan for a month's meal. 300. Yang Ming was stunned. He thought that Qin Dazhuang would ask for tens of thousands of yuan. He didn't expect that he only asked for 300 yuan. It seemed that he was really forced to borrow money because he had no other choice. Yang Ming took out his wallet and counted out 1,000 yuan from it. He handed it to Qin Dazhuang and said, "Take it. Rent a cheaper house, and then find a job." Qin Dazhuang looked at the banknotes handed by Yang Ming and was stunned. He didn't expect his niece's boyfriend to be so generous. He just took out 1,000 yuan. In fact, he was sentenced to 10 years because of 20,000 yuan. He could be released early because he worked well in prison and the result was reduced. Of course, it was also because of Qin Fei's face. With Qin Fei's promotion, the prison also took care of Qin Dazhuang. Thank you. Qin Dazhuang said quickly. "We can help you once, but we can't help you for a lifetime. In the future, you have to rely on yourself." Yang Ming waved his hand and said, "This money is not in a hurry to return. Now the policy is much better than before. You can do some small business. Set up a stall in the night market or something." "Okay, I will work hard and not cause trouble for others." Qin Dazhuang nodded heavily. He didn't expect Yang Ming to be so young. What he said was very reasonable. The previous bad impression disappeared. After Qin Dazhuang left, Qin Mengyan took out the key and opened the door. Then, she entered the house with Yang Ming. "Yang Ming, can you not tell my mother about this? I don't want her to be distracted by other things." Qin Mengyan hesitated for a while and said, She didn't know whether it was right or wrong for her and Yang Ming to borrow money from Chen Dazhuang, so she didn't want to tell her family for the time being. This kind of small matter doesn't matter. Yang Ming smiled. He didn't care about the 1,000 yuan. The most important thing was that Chen Dazhuang could go on the right path in the future. He thought that Chen Dazhuang's matter was over, but he didn't expect to see him again after some time. Well. Chen Mengyan nodded. Looking at the empty house, she was silent. Then I'll go back first. You have a good rest. I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. Yang Ming looked at the time. It was getting late, so he said. Ah. Chen Mengyan stood up and looked at Yang Ming. Can you not go? Not go. Yang Ming looked at Chen Mengyan. Could it be that it was another signal? However, Chen Mengyan had such a thing going on in her family. Did she still have the mind to think about other things? Seeing Yang Ming's somewhat ambiguous eyes, Chen Mengyan blushed and explained, simply accompany me, don't think too much. Oh, I'm not thinking too much. Yang Ming shook his head and said seriously. Xia Shui drove the car and looked at Zhao, who was sitting in the front passenger seat. His face was still pale, and she sighed helplessly. Xia Shui didn't believe in ghosts, but Zhao didn't graduate from the police academy. He was just a driver in charge of driving. Zhao, what you saw shouldn't be a ghost, but someone deliberately pretending to be a ghost. Xia Shui comforted. Sister Xia, although I also told myself not to think about it, the situation at the time was really scary. Zhao took a breath and said, that person's brain was half gone. Little Zhao described the appearance of that thing in detail. Even if Xia Shui was bold, she still had goosebumps all over her body. Just as she was about to open her mouth to persuade him again, her phone rang again. She glanced at the caller ID. It was a small police number. It should be someone from the internal system. Hello, I'm Xia Shui from the criminal investigation team. Xia Shui picked up the phone. Captain Xia, I'm Zhao Dongxing from the Traffic Police West City Detachment, said the person on the other side of the phone. Captain Zhao, what's the matter? Asked Xia Shui. There was a traffic accident on Shatong Road in the west of the city, said Zhao Dongxing. Traffic accident. Captain Zheng, why are you telling me this? Xia Shui was responsible for criminal investigation, not traffic. The situation is a bit strange. It's somewhat similar to the car accident of Captain Chen just now. Zhao Dongxing hesitated. According to the taxi driver behind, he saw a ghost. I think this should be a criminal case. What? Xia Shui was shocked and quickly said, you wait for me. I'll be right there. Shatong Road, right? After hanging up the phone, Xia Shui quickly turned the car around and drove to Shatong Road in the west of the city. Zhao in the car was also a little excited. Sister Xia, look, I didn't lie. At night, the car was very quiet, so Zhao also heard Zhao Dongxing's words clearly. Xia Shui nodded, and her expression became a little dignified. If the car accident over there was also caused by this, then this criminal was really rampant. He had just committed a crime in the south of the city, and now he went to the west of the city to commit a crime. The scene of the car accident had been isolated, and the taxi driver who witnessed it did not let him leave for the time being. The scene was very miserable. A heavy truck overturned into the roadside ditch, and the driver died on the spot. Behind the truck was a taxi. The taxi driver's reaction was quite quick, so he escaped. According to the taxi driver, he saw a ghost at that time. Xia Shui found the taxi driver and asked in detail about the situation at the time. As a result, the image of the ghost described by the taxi driver was exactly the same as what Zhao saw. It could be seen that Zhao did not have an illusion, but he really saw something. Xia Shui couldn't make up her mind, so she directly called Chief Wang. Yang Ming hugged Chen Mengyan and squeezed on the small bed in her room. Why did you want to go back to Heavenly Earth before this? Yang Ming knew that Chen Mengyan was not asleep, so he suddenly asked. Chapter 745. You already guessed it. Why ask again? Chen Mengyan wasn't stupid. Listening to Yang Ming's tone, she knew that he probably knew what she meant. Hee hee. Is it okay now? Yang Ming laughed twice. At home, it's better than the hotel, right? Chen Mengyan was silent for a moment and said, Can we wait until my father is better? I don't have any other mood now. Okay. Yang Ming actually didn't mean to do it. After all, there were too many things today. Right, Mengyan, why did you go to Heavenly Earth today? I accompanied Zhao Sisi to Heavenly Earth to find Shuya's agent to get a few concert tickets, and then I saw you. Chen Mengyan said, Then you tell me, how many times have you gone to get a room with her without telling me? What do you mean by how many times? Yang Ming was a little dumbfounded. It was just this time, and you saw it. Humph. You are sensible. Your sister Lin told me everything. Chen Mengyan snorted. Yang Ming knew Lin Jiyun's character very well. He knew that Chen Mengyan must be telling the truth. Lin Jiyun probably told everything to Chen Mengyan. However, this was also good. It was better to tell the truth of the whole thing to Chen Mengyan through Lin Jiyun's mouth than to explain it himself. They didn't speak at night, and they slept in each other's arms. Early the next morning, Yang Ming called his father and told him about Chen Fei's car accident. Yang Dehai naturally attached great importance to it. He made an appointment with Yang Ming to meet at the entrance of the hospital. Yang Ming drove and went to Heavenly Earth first. Before that, Yang Ming called the chef there to prepare some breakfast. After Yang Ming went there, the underlings would naturally send it out. Then he drove to the People's Hospital. At this time, Yang Dehai's Audi A8 had stopped at the entrance of the hospital. Yang Dehai's current social status was not what it used to be. The company also specially bought an Audi A8 as an official car. After all, such a large enterprise also needed to put up a front. The one who was responsible for driving Yang Dehai was his assistant, Wang Jinda. Mengyan, what happened? Is it serious? Big Ming didn't explain what was going on, so your aunt and I rushed over. Yang Dehai looked anxious, and so did Mother Yang, who was next to him. Uncle, Auntie, the doctor said that my father only injured his leg. There shouldn't be any problem. However, I'm not very clear about the current situation. Let's go and have a look, shall we? Chen Mengyan was particularly well behaved in front of Yang's father and Mother Yang. Then let's go quickly. Yang Dehai nodded and went to the hospital with Yang Ming. Wang Jinda ran over and took the breakfast from Yang Ming's hands. When they came to Chen Fei's ward, they saw Chen Fei, who was lying on the bed, comforting Mother Chen with a smile. There were also colleagues who came to visit. What's this little injury? In the past, I was shot 4 or 5 times by the drug dealer. Didn't I still survive? Chen Fei said with a smile. Old Chen, you're so good. We were so worried, but you were talking and laughing. Yang Dehai saw Chen Fei's current appearance and was relieved. When Chen Fei saw Yang Dehai coming, he quickly wanted to sit up. President Yang is here. Yang Dehai was now a celebrity in Songjiang City. He was often with the provincial and municipal leaders. After all, there were only a few such high-tech companies in the country. Naturally, they were the focus of the provincial and municipal support. All right. Mother Chen was dumbfounded as she pressed Chen Fei back to the bed. What, President Yang? Your in-laws won't pick on you. Chen Fei was just showing that his body was fine, so he smiled. Old Yang, I can't get up. You won't blame me, right? Look at what you said. Yang Dehai sat on the bed opposite Chen Fei and said, but you're fine, so I'm relieved. Chen Mengyan and Yang Ming also breathed a sigh of relief. Chen Fei was no different from a normal person except for the fact that he couldn't get out of bed and walk. However, Chen Fei was stronger than the average person. Otherwise, he would be in so much pain that he grimaced. It was similar to Guan Yu's treatment during the Three Kingdoms period. Isn't this ward a bit small? Looking at the room full of people, Mother Yang felt that the room was a bit stuffy. I'm not a big leader, and I don't have the treatment of a high-level official ward. Hee. Chen Fei said indifferently. Little Wang, ask Presidently for a high-level official ward later. Yang Dehai whispered to Wang Jinda next to him. Now, in this position, Yang Dehai gradually had the style of a leader. He was much more tactful than before. Wang Jinda nodded without batting an eyelid and turned around to leave. Now, the high-level official ward didn't necessarily require an administrative level to stay in. Those big bosses could also enjoy the treatment of a high-level official ward. Yang Dehai had now become the leader of Songjiang's business community. Moreover, he was inextricably linked with Mingyang Entertainment. In Songjiang, no matter whether it was the underworld, who wouldn't give him face? Wang Jinda's current identity was Yang Dehai's spokesperson. Many of the errands were done by Wang Jinda. After a while, President Li of the hospital came in. Logically, someone like Chen Fei was already considered a relatively powerful figure in Songjiang City, but President Li didn't come to visit in person. The reason was very simple. Songjiang's First People's Hospital was the best hospital in Songjiang. The patients who were usually in contact with a lot of department-level cadres were not much. A department-level cadre like Chen Fei was nothing. However, President Li had to give face to Yang Dehai in any case. Not to mention that Mingyang Heavy Industry had designated the First People's Hospital as a designated employee hospital. President Li had also heard about the background behind Yang Dehai. Among the people who dealt with the hospital, there were many who were in the underworld. After all, they had to go to the hospital if they were killed. Therefore, President Li also learned some inside information from Ho Jinhan. President Yang, you didn't inform me in advance when you came. Sorry for not welcoming you. President Li was also a person who was smooth and slick. He knew who couldn't be offended. Hee. Yang Dehai smiled and pointed at Chen Fei to President Li. This is my in-law, Captain Chen of the police station's criminal investigation team. You have to take good care of him. President Li was stunned. He thought that Chen Fei was just a friend of Yang Dehai, but he didn't expect Chen Fei to be his in-law. His face changed, and he immediately apologized to Chen Fei. I'm sorry, Captain Chen. I just got to work. I will let the people below change your ward, there's no need, right? This is quite good. Chen Fei didn't care about this. Why not? The people's police work for the people. You are injured for the people. Our duty is to save lives and help the injured. President Li said with a smile. Chen Fei also sighed. When he saw Yang Dehai during the Chinese New Year, he was still very reserved. He belonged to the kind of simple working class. He hadn't seen him for half a month, but his entire aura had changed. For Chen Fei, Yang Ming didn't want to hide it from him. He told him through Chen Mengyan that he got a lot of money from selling jade. Therefore, he wasn't surprised that Yang Dehai became the chairman. Not only did Chen Fei seem to be in good spirits, but he also wolfed down his breakfast. The breakfast brought by Yang Ming was almost finished. The people present finally felt relieved. Yang Dehai and Mother Yang also left for the company. Yang Ming and Qin Mengyan were also driven back by Qin Fei with the excuse that he wanted to sleep. Originally, the two wanted to go back to sleep, and then go back to the hospital to accompany Qin Fei in the afternoon. However, when the car just stopped downstairs at Qin Mengyan's house, Yang Ming's cell phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, Yang Ming was stunned. It was actually Zhao Ying. Since the friction between Zhao Ying and Qin Mengyan, Yang Ming hadn't seen Zhao Ying. He didn't know why Zhao Ying called at this time. Answer it. Qin Mengyan saw Yang Ming in a daze and urged. Last time, she felt that she misunderstood Zhao Ying. She was very embarrassed, so when Zhao Ying called, Qin Mengyan was naturally nervous. Hello. Sister Ying. Yang Ming picked up the phone. Yang Ming, are you free now? Zhao Ying's voice sounded hesitant. What's wrong? Sister Ying. What's the matter? Asked Yang Ming. My mom and dad are coming to Songjiang. Zhao Ying's voice was a little embarrassed. They will definitely want to see you after they come. What should I do? What? Your parents are coming. When? Yang Ming secretly complained. He was going to be a professional fake boyfriend. He thought that he was just going to deal with it, but he didn't expect them to come to his door. Tonight. Zhao Ying smiled bitterly. They didn't tell me anything first. They just called and told me that the plane ticket had been booked. I will be boarding soon, so it's like this. Yang Ming's gaze looked at Qin Mengyan. After all, Qin Mengyan was next to him. Yang Ming didn't dare to promise anything. Qin Mengyan had a look of "don't look at me" and deliberately turned her face away. Yang Ming was helpless for a while. What do you need me to do? I don't know. Why don't you just tell them directly? I don't want to trouble you anymore. Zhao Ying was also very embarrassed. You go and help Sister Ying. Qin Mengyan knew that she was in the wrong last time, so she wanted to make up for Zhao Ying as much as possible. After thinking about it, she said, anyway, her parents can't always be here. Qin Mengyan is also next to you. Zhao Ying was embarrassed. She didn't expect Yang Ming to have other people around him. And she is also here. Yang Ming said half a sentence, and the phone was snatched by Qin Mengyan. Then, she said, Sister Ying, it's me, Mengyan. You, okay. Zhao Ying stuttered. Qin Mengyan's voice was soft just now, so Zhao Ying didn't hear what she said. However, last time, Qin Mengyan was furious and scared her. She didn't expect that Qin Mengyan, who was usually quiet, would be so angry because of Yang Ming. Chapter 746. Do you think Zhao Ying is lying to us? Zhao Ying's mother, Wang Guifan, who was sitting on the plane, said to Zhao Dequan's father, Zhao Dequan, who was next to her. You are so suspicious. This time, as a thank you for attending the wedding of your third aunt's daughter, you had to go to Songjiang first, and then take the bus to Mount Jing. Isn't this tormenting me? You know that my legs are not very good. Zhao Dequan complained. What do you know? You don't know anything. Wang Guifan glared and said, You look at my third aunt's family. How poor is she? Ever since my cousin got a boyfriend, the guy has taken care of everything. My third aunt is a housewife. She didn't even want to clean the toilet. What does she know? Now she is actually a department manager. My uncle's husband was originally a small stall selling breakfast. You see, in less than a year, he opened a restaurant. Why are you comparing this with others? Our family is not in a difficult situation. Zhao Dequan said indifferently. Not in a difficult situation. Not in a difficult situation. Wang Guifan frowned and began to complain. although I wasn't the most beautiful girl in school, I was still the most beautiful girl in school. There were a lot of people chasing after me. Why did I fall for an honest intellectual like you? I have been earning a dead salary for a lifetime. How many days of happiness have I enjoyed? Other women at my age go out for beauty and fitness all day long. They drink tea and chat with their friends, but can I do it? You look at Li Xiaoyu. She didn't look as good as me in the past. Now, how good is her maintenance? It's like she is more than 10 years younger than me. For Wang Guifen's nagging, Zhao Dequan didn't dare to refute. This was also what he felt most sorry for his wife in his life. In the past, there were many people who pursued Wang Guifen. There were even more who had a good impression of her. There were at least 50 if not 30. But Zhao Dequan finally got the beauty. Love in that era had no benefits or disadvantages. It was completely romantic. Wang Guifen wouldn't think too much about the future. But now, seeing that other people had private cars and went to the underground restaurant and resort every few days, Zhao Dequan's heart didn't feel good. Although he didn't care much about these things, he knew that Wang Guifen liked them. Every time she talked about these things with her colleagues and acquaintances in the neighborhood, she would always be envious when she got home. Guifen. I'm sorry. In addition to saying sorry, Zhao Dequan had nothing else to say. Forget it. I've been like this for the rest of my life. But our Ying is still young. She's still growing. She might think that love is more important than bread now, but in the future, she will think that love is nothing compared to bread. Wang Guifen said, look at my cousin. She's not even as pretty as our Ying. She married a rich man's son, she may not be happy. Didn't your aunt say that the boy often spends his time outside? Zhao Dequan shook his head. How can this kind of marriage be reliable? How do you know he's unreliable? How many men weren't unfaithful? I don't believe that if you, Zhao Dequan, are rich, you won't have these crooked thoughts. Wang Guifen snorted. If you say no now, it's because you don't have money. When you have money, you won't think so. Although Zhao Dequan felt guilty to Wang Guifen, when he heard Wang Guifen say so, he was a little annoyed. According to what you said, isn't it more profitable to let our daughter be a mistress? If there is a suitable one, then it is also a way out. Wang Guifen snorted. It was no wonder that Wang Guifen's thoughts were so extreme. When people reached this age, they had suffered for most of their lives. Every day, they were calculated for money. They lived a really unhappy life. It wasn't cool at all. She didn't want Xiao Ying to repeat her mistakes. Moreover, she also wanted to live comfortably for the rest of her life. This third aunt, she had no contact with her. But a while ago, when she heard that her cousin had become a phoenix, Wang Guifen became enthusiastic. Zhao Dequan's mouth moved, and finally, he sighed helplessly. He knew that Wang Guifen had suffered too much. It was normal to have such thoughts. You say, what about the son of Boss Lu in our community? Wang Guifen turned to Zhao Dequan. During the Chinese New Year, our Ying came back. Boss Lu's son, Lu Shihao, saw her. He liked her at first glance. Who the hell is Lu Shihao? He is a donkey in the society. Do you dare to introduce such a person to our daughter? Zhao Dequan heard that Wang Guifen's words were getting more and more outrageous. He couldn't help but be angry. That kid isn't a good thing at first glance. He hangs out with a group of hooligans all day long. He fights and flirts with girls, young people. It is normal to behave erratically. It will be better in the future, said Wang Guifen. Okay, that kid has never been married. He divorced in 2 months. Do you want to kill Ying? Zhao Dequan waved his hand. What's wrong with divorce? Didn't the woman get more than 1 million yuan as compensation for the loss of youth? Wang Guifan snorted and said, moreover, this time Boss Lu said that as long as our Yingying nodded, he would buy a house for Yingying and a car, all in Yingying's name. When she comes back to L City, she can go to work in his company. She doesn't have to do anything. It is not a problem to earn more than 100,000 yuan a year. Are you thinking about money? Zhao Dequan finally couldn't listen anymore. He glared and shouted. You are so capable, right? That's fine. If you have the ability, buy me a car. It doesn't have to be too good. Just tens of thousands will do. I want to be more comfortable for the rest of my life. Wang Guifan said without showing weakness. Zhao Dequan pouted. In the end, he didn't say anything. He had to hang his head and sigh. Although Zhao Ying had a boyfriend, Wang Guifan didn't see it with her own eyes. She didn't believe it. The most important thing was that she wanted to see what the boyfriend's family background was like. If it was not good, she had to pull Zhao Ying back and let her go on a blind date with Boss Lu's son, Lu Shihao. Sister Ying, do you want to borrow Yangming? Chen Mengyan smiled and said, no problem. I will send him to you in a while. Then, thank you so much. Zhao Ying didn't know how to open her mouth. She didn't expect Chen Mengyan to agree so readily, so she quickly said gratefully. Otherwise, she really didn't know how to deal with it. Zhao Ying knew her mother's snobbishness very well. She didn't know how to deal with it. Seeing that Chen Mengyan had no objection, she was relieved. Let's deal with the current situation first. Originally, she knew that her mother and father were going to attend the wedding, but she didn't expect them to take a detour to Songjiang first. Obviously, there was a direct flight to Mount Jing, but they had to take a bus to Donghai first, and then take a bus to Mount Jing. Yang Ming listened to Chen Mingyan's words, and he was somewhat helpless. He felt that something was wrong, so he pretended to be dissatisfied. I'm not a thing. Why are you borrowing me? Yes, you're not a thing. Chen Mengyan said with a smile. Yang Ming was stunned, and then he knew that he had fallen into the pit that he had dug himself. When did Chen Mengyan become so eloquent? But this time, don't make it real. Chen Mengyan had obviously gotten some information from Lin Jiyun. Yang Ming smiled awkwardly, but Chen Mengyan had already opened the door and jumped out. I'm going back first. You don't have to send me off. You go to Sister Ying. Don't make her anxious. Yang Ming nodded and watched Chen Mengyan enter the unit door. Then, he tracked her with his special ability until she used the key to open the door and enter the house. Then, he started the car and left. Since the last incident with Chen Dazhuang, Yang Ming had become cautious. Chen Fei's position was very easy to offend people. Therefore, Yang Ming was afraid that someone would retaliate against Chen Mengyan. Manager, I received 2 bouquets of roses today. The secretary walked into Sun Jie's office with the roses, and then said, do you still want to throw away the cards and put the flowers in? Sun Jia was stunned, and then a smile crossed her mouth. She said to the secretary, show me the cards. Okay. Although the secretary felt a little strange in her heart why the manager would look at the cards today, she didn't say anything. She took out the cards and handed them to Sun Jia. Sun Jia first looked at the signature on the top card, and then threw the card into the shredder next to her. Chapter 747. After not seeing each other for a long time, Zhao Ying became more and more beautiful and refined. He couldn't see that she had been a teacher at all. Walking together with Yang Ming looked like a young man who had stepped into society, while Zhao Ying was more like a college student. Sister Ying. Yang Ming saw her from afar. He opened the car window and shouted to Zhao Ying. Yang Ming. You came so soon. I just came out. Zhao Ying ran 2 steps and came to the gate of the school. Because it was still a holiday, the school gate was not open, and the car couldn't drive in. I just sent Meng Yan home. It's not too far from here. There is no traffic jam on the road at this time. Yang Ming said, get in the car. You didn't even bring a hat and scarf. Aren't you afraid of the cold? Who said I didn't bring it? Zhao Ying opened the zipper of her down jacket, revealing the scarf tied inside. Then she smiled and said, as for the hat, isn't there one behind the down jacket? Yang Ming looked at Zhao Ying, who looked like a little girl. He couldn't help but shake his head. The Zhao Ying in his memory as a teacher was gradually blurred. Now, Zhao Ying was the real image of the sister next door. Without the barrier of their teacher and student identities, the two of them chatted and joked more naturally. Sister Ying, have you considered really dating a boyfriend? Yang Ming started the car and pretended to ask casually, after all, it's not a long-term solution to hide it. To be honest, Yang Ming didn't have no feelings for Zhao Ying. That night was still fresh in his memory. Yang Ming's feelings for Zhao Ying at that time were no less than Chen Mengyan. However, Zhao Ying rejected him rationally, so Yang Ming didn't dare to go further. He could only suppress this feeling in the bottom of his heart. Ah. When Zhao Ying heard Yang Ming's words, she was obviously stunned. Then, she said somewhat unnaturally, why, do you say that? Nothing, I just feel that, you haven't been in love yet. Is there something wrong with your heart? Yang Ming naturally wouldn't tell the truth, so he could only make things up. You are the abnormal one. Zhao Ying said angrily, how am I abnormal? I think it's a little. Yang Ming continued, at that time, I wanted to kiss you. Why did you refuse? Today, the reason why Yang Ming said so many ambiguous words was actually because of Wang Xiaoyan's words, which made Yang Ming's heart come alive again. Zhao Ying didn't expect that Yang Ming would suddenly mention that matter. Her face suddenly turned red. This was one of the things that Zhao Ying regretted the most so far. The hesitation at the beginning had caused her to be hesitant now. If I could be braver at the beginning and not think about the secular concept. Then, the cart should be reversed. That day, it shouldn't be Chen Mengyan who was angry with me, but it should be me who was angry with Chen Mengyan. However, then again, Zhao Ying was just thinking about it. She couldn't really do it. At the beginning, I was your teacher. How can you be like this? And, are you worthy of Chen Mengyan? Zhao Ying calmed down her emotions and said. At the beginning. Yang Ming's heart moved. What does Zhao Ying mean by, at the beginning? Is it okay now that we don't have that kind of teacher-student relationship? Yang Ming pretended to focus on driving and secretly used his special ability to look at Zhao Ying's expression. When he saw that Zhao Ying didn't have any special expression, he couldn't help but be disappointed. Maybe I think too much. In fact, Zhao Ying was also pretending to be calm. It should be something that had already passed, and it wouldn't happen a second time. But, what did the kiss when we were rock climbing mean? Unintentional. Intentional. Perhaps, after that unintentional kiss, something could happen again, but it was interrupted by the arrival of Chen Mengyan. Zhao Ying could only lament silently as the will of the heavens was like this. When they were on the highway this time, Yang Ming learned to be smart. He first observed the road conditions and the weather to avoid any serial traffic collisions. Fortunately, the sky was clear today, and there weren't many cars. What did you tell your mother about me before? Don't let the cat out of the bag. Yang Ming asked. I just said that you are my college classmate. Zhao Ying said, it shouldn't be exposed. Anyway, you are indeed a student of Songjiang Industry University. Besides, we are quite familiar with each other. That's true, but what did you say about my age? Yang Ming nodded. You are the same age as me. Anyway, you don't look younger than me. Zhao Ying smiled and said, your mouth is usually very talkative. I believe you will be able to settle my mother. It's easy to settle. I'm just afraid that your mother will like me and force me to be her real son-in-law. What should I do then? Yang Ming said shamelessly. Oh, my mother is very picky. When she said this, Zhao Ying was a little guilty. She knew her mother's character very well. She was a serious, materialistic person. When she saw Yang Ming's car, she would probably agree without hesitation. The plane landed at Donghai International Airport. Zhao Dequan and Wang Guifin dragged their suitcases out of the domestic arrival exit. That woman. Don't go. A loud shout came over. Wang Guifin and Zhao Dequan were both stunned, but they didn't think that it was calling them. In Donghai, they didn't know many people. I'm calling you. Didn't you hear me? Wang Guifin took another 2 steps and was pulled from behind. Wang Guifin was stunned. She turned around and saw a young man with a cigarette in his mouth pulling her luggage. What are you doing? Wang Guifin glared and said with some displeasure. Although this young man didn't look like a good person, Wang Guifin didn't believe that he could do anything to her in broad daylight. What are you doing? You scratched my car. Do you want to leave? The young man pointed to the black car behind him and said with a grin. I scratched your car. When did I scratch it? Why didn't I know? Wang Guifin thought, did I encounter a liar? Okay, don't say that I am framing you. The young man pulled Wang Guifin's luggage and walked to the back. Wang Guifin was not as strong as him, so she could only be dragged by him. Look at it yourself. The young man pointed to a scratch on the car and said angrily. Why did you say that I scratched it? Why didn't I know? When Wang Guifin saw the car, she knew that it wasn't cheap. This kind of car, how much would it cost to scratch a piece of paint? Even if she scratched it, how would she admit it? The young man didn't answer. He put Wang Guifin's luggage on the ground and then said, whether it is or not, isn't it clear? When Wang Guifin saw it, she was dumbfounded. Sure enough, the height of her luggage was the same as the scratch on the car. Moreover, on the outside of the luggage, parallel to the scratch, there was a protruding iron buckle. Looking carefully, there were some paint chips on the iron buckle. This time, she couldn't deny it even if she didn't want to. The facts were in front of her, and she couldn't argue. We will pay for it. Zhao Dequan also understood at the moment. It wasn't that the other person deliberately blackmailed them, but they inadvertently scratched the other person's car. I don't know. I have to call and ask, but without 30 or 50,000 yuan, it can't be done, said the young man. What? 30 or 50,000 yuan? Are you blackmailing me? When Wang Guifin heard it, she was immediately unwilling. She wasn't a 1-year-old child. Scratching the paint for 30 or 50,000 yuan. Usually, when she bought groceries downstairs, she heard acquaintances who had cars in the community say that scratching the car was only a matter of 100 or 200 yuan. This guy asked for 30 or 50,000 yuan. Look clearly. This is a Rolls-Royce Phantom. The young man snorted and said, this car has been scratched. It needs to be sent back to Beijing for the whole car to be painted. It can't be painted here. 30 or 50,000 yuan is a minimum. If our boss knows that his car is scratched, he might scold me. Wang Guifin had heard of Rolls-Royce and knew that this was the world's top luxury car. She couldn't help but be stunned, but she didn't expect that she would inadvertently scratch such a good car. But even if it was a good car, Wang Guifin didn't think it was expensive. Besides, painting. What kind of car didn't need to be painted? Was there a difference in paint? She determined that the person in front of her wanted to blackmail her, so she said, "Okay, I also understand what you think. Don't you just want more money? Well, I will give you 200 yuan, and this matter will end. Otherwise, I will call the police to see who is the right person." 200. What an international joke. The young man snorted and said, "Call the police. Well, you broke my things and didn't compensate me. Let's see what the police will say. Who is afraid of who?" Wang Guifan thought that the young man was deliberately stubborn, and she was afraid. She took out her mobile phone and dialed the police number. "Hello, I want to call the police." "Yes, I am at the international airport. When I came out, I accidentally scratched a car. As a result, the driver of the car asked me for 30 or 50,000 yuan compensation. I suspect that he is blackmailing me." "Well, then I will wait for you." After the phone call, Wang Guifan looked at the young man very proudly and said, "The police said that you may be a blackmailer. If you know what's good for you, then quickly drive the car away. Otherwise, you will be in trouble." "I am a blackmailer." "Ha, what a joke. Then you wait. I will see if you can't compensate me when the police come." The young man snorted and said. Not long after, a police car came. The speed of the police in the provincial capital was still very fast. There was a police station near the airport. Moreover, the international airport was a channel for international friends to come and go. The strength of cracking down on these blackmailer scams was relatively greater. "Are you the ones who called the police?" A policeman jumped out of the car and asked Wang Guifan. "It's me. It's me. Police comrade, look. It's such a small scratch." Wang Guifan pointed to the scratch on the car and said, "Ah." The policeman naturally knew the Rolls-Royce and knew the value of the car, so at the moment, he really had nothing to say. For this kind of top luxury car, it was unknown how much the painting cost, but if the original painting was done by the factory, it was definitely not cheap. Chapter 748. This. The police officer hesitated for a moment, then said, "Madam, I think you should negotiate first. First, call the car's after-sales service and ask how much the paint will cost. With the price clearly stated, no one will lose out, right? Then call." Wang Guifan was sure that the person in front of her wanted to blackmail her, so she said without hesitation, "Let's call." "Who is afraid of who?" The young man snorted. "The police are here. Are you still afraid that you will run away?" Wang Guifan was afraid that the young man would cheat, so she called 114 and asked for the phone number of the Rolls-Royce after-sales service. She called and asked about the paint. The result was similar to what the young man said. The paint of the car was specially treated. It couldn't be sprayed in other places. It could only be painted by the original factory. When Wang Guifan inquired about the price given by the other side shocked her. Depending on the degree of scratching and whether the car body was damaged or not, it would cost 50,000 to 100,000 yuan for maintenance. The labor costs were calculated separately. "I don't care how much you want. This scratch is not big. Let's just calculate it according to the minimum, 50,000 yuan. The young man said, "Is my price fair?" In fact, the young man's price seemed fair, but in fact, he wanted to get some benefits for himself. Although the car was damaged and the boss may scold him when he went back, then again, he could say that he didn't know who scratched the car on the side of the road. 50,000 yuan. Wang Guifan didn't want to pay. How many years would it take for her to save 50,000 yuan? How could she just give it away for nothing? She wasn't willing, so she said, "Now the car is insured, right? Isn't it compulsory traffic insurance?" "That is compulsory traffic insurance." If I hit you, the insurance company will pay you, but not me. The young man said, hurry up and withdraw the money. I still have something to do. 50,000 yuan is too much. Or, can it be less? Zhao Dequan didn't speak for a long time, but he had to speak now. After all, he was a man. Some things were more convenient to communicate, unlike Wang Guifin, who was calculative. What is less? This is already less enough. The young man was impatient and said, hurry up and pay the money. Otherwise, the police comrades are here. If you destroy other people's property, they can sue you in court. No one was willing to get involved in this kind of dispute. The police officer who came was the same. After a few words of mediation, he made an excuse and left in a hurry. After all, this kind of civil dispute could only be mediated. If it couldn't be mediated, then whoever wanted to sue could sue. It wasn't something he could control. I don't have money, but I do have a life. What do you want? Seeing that the young man's tone had become aggressive, Wang Guifin was not a kind person. This kind of housewife who struggled at the bottom of society was the most unreasonable. Do you think I can't control you? The young man refused to back down. I can kill you, do you believe me? If you have the guts, then kill me. Wang Guifin usually said such ruthless words, how could she take it seriously? You're not going to compensate me. Why are you still calling me? The young man wanted to get some extra income, but at this moment, he was really angry because of Wang Guifin, so he didn't care about the money. He just wanted to make things worse. He took out his phone and dialed a number. Hello. I'm Li Guo. You bring some people over. Damn, there is a woman who scratched the boss's car, and she still wants to be unreasonable with me. After the phone call, the young man looked at Wang Guifin and said, you have two choices. One is to pay the money happily, and you leave. The other is that you wait here. When my people come, it won't be so easy to talk to them. Oh. Are you pretending to be ignorant with me? I've seen a lot of you like this. I'm here today. What can you do to me? If you have the ability, then kill me. Wang Guifin thought he was just scaring people, so she wasn't afraid. The young man didn't speak. He stood there calmly, looking at Wang Guifin and Zhao Dequan. He didn't let them have a chance to slip away. Guifin, this is our fault after all. Can't we solve it peacefully? Don't make things worse. We are not familiar with this place. It's better not to cause trouble. Zhao Dequan advised, or, let's call Ying and ask her to send the money. What are you afraid of? You are the only one who is timid. Wang Guifin snorted. How many years has Ying been working? She didn't ask for money from her family when she went to school. How could she have money? Besides, what do you mean by not familiar with this place? How could I have forgotten about that? Isn't my third aunt's son-in-law's family very powerful in this area? Zhao Dequan shook his head. My wife is really too snobbish. She likes to show off when she has a little ability. She doesn't care whether she is familiar with others or not. She hasn't even met them yet, and she is already asking for help. Wang Guifin seemed to have taken a stimulant. Thinking of this, she picked up the phone, opened the phone book, took Zhao Dequan's mobile phone, and dialed the number. Hello. Is it the third aunt? I am Guifin. Wang Guifin said with a smile. Oh. It's Guifin. Look at you. Your child is getting married. You came all the way here. I'm really sorry. Have you arrived? Do you want me to find someone to send a car to pick you up? Said Wang Guifin's third aunt. I just arrived at the airport. I encountered some trouble. Wang Guifan said, I heard that my cousin-in-law's family is very powerful in this area. So, I called you. Oh. What's the matter? Wang Guifan's third aunt said lightly, but the arrogance in her tone couldn't be concealed. Wang Guifan sighed. People are really different now. How long had it been since that third aunt, who was so timid and insignificant, become so arrogant in such a short period of time? This is the case. I accidentally scratched someone's car at the airport, but that person wants me to pay 50,000 yuan. Said Wang Guifan. Oh. What car? Asked the third aunt. It's called a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Said Wang Guifan. Oh. Wang Guifan's third aunt said faintly, that's a bit much. So, you give the phone to him. I will talk to him. When Wang Guifan heard that there was a chance, she was overjoyed. She immediately became arrogant and handed the phone to the young man. Pick up the phone. The young man snorted. Apparently, he didn't take it seriously. Well, in Donghai, who could be more powerful than the boss? Hello. The young man picked up the phone. Who are you? Asked Wang Guifan's third aunt. Who are you? The young man was somewhat unwilling. You asked who I am when you came up. You haven't said who you are yet. I am a member of the Sui family of Mount Jing. The person who called me is my niece. Before Wang Guifan's third aunt finished speaking, she was interrupted by the young man. What's wrong with the Sui family of Mount Jing? You don't want to pay for scratching the car. The young man said disdainfully. Who are you? When Wang Guifan's third aunt heard the other party's tone, she was annoyed and asked coldly. Me? My name is Li Gu, but my boss is Sun Hongjun. Li Gu said indifferently. Wang Guifan's third aunt immediately became silent. After a long while, she said, You return the phone to her. Wang Guifan's third aunt had also mingled in the upper class for more than half a year. Naturally, she knew who Sun Hongjun was. The Sun family in Donghai was similar to the Sui family in Mount Jing. Hello. Wang Guifan didn't know the result of the exchange. She thought that Li Gu gave in and quickly took the phone. Compensate him with the money, said the person on the other side of the phone. Ah. Wang Guifan was stunned. After a long time, she remembered and asked, why? However, the phone had been hung up. Wang Guifan was not a fool. Her third aunt didn't care about this matter. It meant that the other party was someone she didn't want to provoke, or she couldn't afford to provoke. Thinking of this, Wang Guifan couldn't help but feel a little dejected. The person that the third aunt couldn't afford to provoke, she couldn't afford to provoke. Now, what should I do with the 50,000 yuan? At this time, the people called by the young man had arrived. 6 or 7 men in black came down from the 2 Jiangnan Ruifeng commercial vehicles and gathered here. Looking at this situation, Wang Guifan was a little dumbfounded. She thought that the young man was just scaring people, but now it seemed that these people were not good people. Could they be gang members? Zhao Dequan also saw the situation in front of him and quickly said to Wang Guifan, let's compensate, but, where do we have the money now? The deposit book is at home, and the money in the bank card is not enough. Wang Guifan panicked at the moment. A person with her character was usually rude to people who were not as good as her. Once she encountered a strong person, she was dumbfounded. What's the matter? Didn't they say that they would arrive at 4:20? Zhao Ying looked at her watch and then said anxiously, it's almost 5:00. Why haven't they come out yet? I didn't see the notice of a delayed flight. I said to wait, but you said that it was cold in the car. Yang Ming shrugged and said, could it be that they took a detour? Then let's go down and take a look. Zhao Ying nodded. In fact, the reason why Zhao Ying did not get out of the car was that she was very dissatisfied with her parents' sudden attack. Although she also came to pick them up, she wanted to express her protest. The two locked the car and walked to the exit of the domestic arrival. Zhao Ying was still very familiar with her parents. She saw them at a glance, but they were surrounded by a group of people. Dad, Mom. Zhao Ying didn't know what was going on and quickly ran over. Yang Ming, at this moment, probably guessed that the two people surrounded in the middle were Zhao Ying's parents. Ying, you are here. Zhao Dequan smiled bitterly. At this moment, it was better not to ask his daughter to participate. Dad, Mom, what's the matter? What are these people doing? Zhao Ying looked at the black-shirt people around her with unkind eyes. Just in time, your family is here. Li Gu said, Miss, your mother scratched my car. You pay for her. Chapter 749. Because there were so many people, Li Gu didn't notice Yang Ming who followed Zhao Ying. He even said, but your mother doesn't look good, but you are quite pretty. Li Ji was just trying to take advantage of her, but he didn't want to do anything else. However, the people he called over were a little unruly. One of them, a dark-faced man, said, Why don't you accompany us and have fun? We'll pay for you. What do you think? Li Gu usually followed Sun Hongjun. Naturally, it was impossible for him to do anything that wasn't serious. He was arrogant, but if he went overboard, Sun Hongjun would definitely not let him go. But these people under him were a bit unscrupulous. Although these people were working for the Sun family, they were directly managed by the Tian family. Sun Hongjun couldn't interfere too much. However, Li Gu wouldn't do something overboard, but it didn't mean that he would stop others from doing these things. Li Gu didn't vent his anger, so he was naturally happy to watch the fun. When Yang Ming heard the black-faced man's words, he was suddenly a little unhappy. Not to mention his special feelings for Zhao Ying, just based on the sibling relationship, Yang Ming wouldn't allow others to make fun of Zhao Ying. Otherwise, Yang Ming wouldn't have messed with that idiot Jean Gang so badly. Keep the money for your mother to have fun. Yang Ming naturally knew Li Gu, but he didn't greet him. He was just Sun Hongjun's driver. Yang Ming didn't need to give him any face. Listening to Yang Ming's sudden stiff words, the black-faced man was stunned. His face suddenly became darker. He reached out to grab Yang Ming's collar. Which fucking bird's nest did you crawl out from? When Li Gu saw Yang Ming, his face suddenly changed, and his heart tightened. How could Li Gu not know the relationship between Yang Ming and the Sun family? When he heard Yang Ming's words, he understood where Yang Ming stood. Li Ji didn't need to give face to the Sui family of Mount Jing, but Yang Ming's face. This was no longer a matter of giving face or not. Yang Ming might not give him any face. He was not qualified to ask for face from Yang Ming. It had to be said that many of the drivers who drove for leaders or CEOs were the best at changing their expressions. They would speak to whoever they met. Li Ji's face immediately changed from arrogance to humility. Brother Yang, what happened? Yang Ming coldly glanced at the people nearby and said, Are these the bodyguards for my guest? Who is this? The dark-faced man didn't recognize Yang Ming. Although he heard Li Ji call him Brother Yang, he wasn't very convinced and asked Li Ji. The boss's son-in-law. Li Ji didn't dare to speak loudly. He just whispered in the dark-faced man's ear. Which boss? The dark-faced man was stunned. How many bosses do I have? Li Ji glanced at him and whispered, If you don't want to die, keep your mouth shut. The dark-faced man finally reacted. The boss is Sun Hongjun, and Yang Ming, isn't that the Sun family's Miss Sun Jiez? Sorry, Brother Yang, misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding. Li Ji quickly smiled and said, This auntie accidentally scratched my car. We were just discussing what to do. Although Li Ji claimed that it was a misunderstanding, he didn't dare to conceal the matter just now. He also understood that this matter couldn't be concealed. Yang Ming would know everything when he asked the people over there. At that time, he would fabricate and leave a bad impression on Yang Ming. If Yang Ming said bad things about him in front of Sun Hongjun, then he would be completely finished. Yang Ming glanced at the scratches on the car, then took out the phone and dialed Sun Hongjun's number. Hello, Uncle Sun. I'm Yang Ming. This is the case. I met your driver, Li Ji, at the airport. Said Yang Ming. Did this kid offend you? Sun Hongjun knew that Li Ji was a person who bullied others because of his master's power. Moreover, Yang Ming wouldn't call him just because he saw Li Ji. Li Ji wasn't an important person. No, it's just that my friend scratched his car, your Rolls-Royce. I'm just telling you. Do you want me to fix it for you? Yang Ming smiled. You kid, you're asking for a scolding. If it's scratched, then it's scratched. Sun Hongjun smiled and said, Is that it? That's it. Yang Ming said. Tell me next time when you smash the car. After Sun Hongjun knew the identity of Yang Ming, he talked to Yang Ming more casually. He didn't have the attitude of suppressing Yang Ming as an elder. That's fine. I didn't bring a hammer today. I really have to try how it feels to smash a Rolls-Royce another day. Yang Ming smiled and said, I have heard of smashing a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW, but I have never seen smashing a Rolls-Royce. You have friends around you, so I won't look for you. Let's meet another day. I have something to look for you. Sun Hongjun put away his smile and talked about business. Okay, I'm very busy these days. I will come to Donghai with Sun Jia another day. Yang Ming said. I heard that you sent flowers to little Jie. Hee, not bad. Sun Hongjun heard Yang Ming mention his daughter and couldn't help but make a joke. Hee. In front of Zhao Ying's parents, Yang Ming couldn't say much, so he hung up the phone. Your boss asked me to smash the car. You may be able to drive a better car. Yang Ming patted Li Ji's shoulder and didn't make it difficult for him. It seemed that the fault was with Zhao Ying's family. Yang Ming didn't want to bully too much. Ugh. Li Gut smiled awkwardly and said, If Brother Yang wants to smash it, then who dares to say no? I'm just kidding. Yang Ming waved his hand and said, Is it okay? If it's okay, take your people and leave. I don't need a bodyguard here. It's okay. Brother Yang, do you need me to send you? Li Gu saw that Yang Ming didn't say anything bad about him, so he was very grateful. No need. I drove here. Yang Ming said with some impatience. That's fine. I will go first. Li Gu saw that Yang Ming was a little unhappy. He quickly winked at the black-faced macho man and quickly left the scene. He didn't even drive the car. He planned to wait for Yang Ming to go away before he came back to drive. Wang Guifan was dumbfounded at the moment. The expression on her face was surprised, envious, but more than that, it was joy. Even if she was stupid, she could guess that the person in front of her was Zhao Ying's boyfriend. Zhao Ying said that her boyfriend was called Yang Ming. Just now, Li Gu called him Brother Yang, so it was undoubtedly him. Wang Guifan suddenly had the feeling of a daughter-in-law who had been waiting for many years to become a mother-in-law. It was as if she was sitting on a helicopter, and her identity was instantly raised. My third aunt and I boasted about how powerful the Sui family is. Isn't there something that can't be settled here? What about Yang Ming? As soon as he came over, he didn't wait to do anything. The originally arrogant Li Guk suddenly became as humble as a toad. Moreover, Wang Guifan also heard that Yang Ming seemed to be very familiar with Li Ji's boss. It was a real kind of familiarity. Although he called the other party uncle's son, his tone was a kind of peaceful and equal relationship. What did this mean? It was self-evident that her son-in-law's power here was even greater than the Sui family. In her opinion, the matter that the Sui family couldn't settle, Yang Ming solved it easily. That was true strength. She originally planned to call her daughter back and introduce her to Boss Lu's son, but at the moment, she threw it out of the window. She was afraid that Yang Ming would not like her daughter. You are Yang Ming. I often hear Ying mention you. Wang Guifan didn't dare to be too arrogant and said to Yang Ming kindly. Hello, auntie. Yang Ming didn't know Wang Guifan's nature, so he politely bowed to her. Then, he said to Zhao Ying's father, Hello, Uncle Zhao. Good, good. Although Zhao Dequan wasn't a snobbish person, he was happy to see Yang Ming's ability. However, he was also a little worried. He didn't know how bad his wife would be in the future. He had a headache just thinking about it. Zhao Ying was very familiar with her mother's character. She couldn't help but frown. She didn't know how Yang Ming could have a relationship with the forces of Donghai. She originally thought that Yang Ming just had some money, but now it seemed that this wasn't the case. Suddenly, Zhao Ying found that she knew too little about Yang Ming. Just like the time when she went to the temple fair, Yang Ming could always give her some surprises. In that memory, there was some ignorant, simple, and even hateful young man. Now, she couldn't see through him. Zhao Ying didn't know if this was good or bad. Is he still the man who made my heart beat? Zhao Ying looked at Yang Ming next to her and recalled the bits and pieces of this time. She nodded affirmatively in her heart. Yes. However, at this time, Yang Ming made her feel very distant. There was an unreal sense of existence. Seeing Yang Ming's car, Wang Guifan's eyes were even brighter. She still recognized the BMW logo. Perhaps many people didn't know the brands of Rolls-Royce, Lincoln, and Cadillac, but they knew BMW and Mercedes-Benz. Because there was a saying, drive a BMW, ride a Mercedes-Benz. It showed the position of BMW and Mercedes-Benz in the minds of the public. After getting in the car, Wang Guifan began to talk more. Yang Ming, do you and Ying usually live together? Zhao Dequan listened to Wang Guifan's words and almost vomited blood. How can you ask this kind of thing casually? Young people also have their privacy. However, the words had already been said. It was too late to stop it. Yang Ming was stunned. He thought that Wang Guifan was testing him. He quickly said, No, we have a dormitory at school. Yang Ming didn't know what Wang Guifan meant, but Zhao Ying knew. She couldn't help but be a little annoyed. Why is my mother like this? So, where did that kind and hard-working mother of his go? Chapter 750. Ah, I see. Wang Guifan was obviously a little disappointed. She didn't know what kind of relationship Yang Ming and her daughter had. She was afraid that one day, Yang Ming and her daughter would break up. What should she do? However, when her heart moved, Wang Guifan came up with a good idea. Why don't you buy a house near the school? I heard that there are many college students living outside. It is convenient for you and Ying to live together. Oh. Yang Ming was stunned. He almost couldn't hold the steering wheel. If he wasn't very sober, Yang Ming even thought that he had heard wrongly. Buy a house. Yeah, you are all postgraduate students. Aren't postgraduate students allowed to get married now? Said Wang Guifan. Zhao Ying and Yang Ming's faces changed at the same time. Zhao Ying was extremely embarrassed, and Yang Ming was inexplicable. This was the first time he had seen such a mother. Although Chen Mingyan's parents basically let go of the relationship between him and Chen Mingyan and let it develop, they also had an attitude of neither opposition nor support for that matter. Auntie. We are still in school. Isn't it a bit early to talk about marriage? Yang Ming hesitated and said. Wang Guifan listened to Yang Ming's tone and thought that Yang Ming was a young man who didn't want to get married too early, so she quickly said, then don't get married first. Now, there are many college students living together. Mom, what are you talking about? Zhao Ying frowned. The more she listened, the more she felt that something was wrong, so she quickly stopped her mother. You child, Mom is doing it for your own good. Wang Guifan said seriously, when a man and a woman are together, if they break up one day, the one who suffers is still the woman. So, Yang Ming, for Ying Ying's future life, don't you have to buy a house for her? Don't you think what I said is reasonable? Yang Ming really learned what a fierce mother was. She could even say this kind of nonsense. However, Yang Ming didn't forget the mission this time. Naturally, he couldn't show any dissatisfaction to Wang Guifan. He just nodded and said, Auntie, you are right. This is also a very normal way of thinking. Since you are right, then when will you buy a house? Wang Guifan said, this matter can't just be said. Okay. I will buy it in a few days. Yang Ming was helpless. How many days is a few days? Wang Guifan. Tomorrow is fine. Auntie, if you see a good house, you can make the decision. I will pay for it. Yang Ming didn't care about the cost of this house. Moreover, the house was bought for Zhao Ying. He was willing to do so. Not to mention his special feelings for Zhao Ying, just Zhao Ying's help before the college entrance examination made Yang Ming very grateful. However, this feeling of being forced to buy a house was a bit weird. Okay, then it's settled. Seeing that this prospective son-in-law was so understanding, Wang Guifan couldn't help but be happy. Her desire swelled and she blurted out, then, when you have a house, do you still need to buy a car? Isn't it very convenient for you to pick up Ying Ying all day long? What if you don't have time and Ying Ying, a girl, is in danger when she goes back? Don't you think I am right? I heard that the bigger the city, the worse the security. Those criminals are willing to come. Speaking of roaming around, Yang Ming really believed that it was true. Wasn't Ji Shuixing, whom he met with Zhao Ying, a criminal? Therefore, Wang Guifan wasn't wrong. He even bought a house, so he didn't lack a car. Yang Ming simply nodded and said, no problem. Auntie, do you want to choose one together? Yang Ming was helpless, so he said such a joke. He didn't expect Wang Guifan to believe it. Really? It just so happens that I was a driver in a large group in my early years. I still have a driver's license. I don't need a good car. You just need to buy a good one for Ying Ying. For my car, just buy it with the small change. A car that costs tens of thousands is fine. Yang Ming was almost amused, but because of Zhao Ying's face, he could only continue, it doesn't matter. You can buy a better one, then, buy a domestic BMW. I heard that it is only more than 300,000. Wang Guifan was so excited that her voice changed. It was no wonder that Wang Guifan would lose her composure. Although Wang Guifan was snobbish, she wasn't a fool. It was impossible that she couldn't understand the good words. However, Wang Guifan was so excited today that she lost her mind and spoke without thinking. Moreover, Wang Guifan felt that her daughter was so beautiful. She should charm Yang Ming. If Zhao Ying was just an ordinary friend of Yang Ming, or if Yang Ming didn't have a good impression of her, perhaps Yang Ming would have already turned hostile. However, at this moment, Yang Ming felt that buying things for Zhao Ying was a must. It was just that this method made him feel a little uncomfortable. Okay. Yang Ming was already numb. In his opinion, the price of the car didn't matter, so since he agreed, it was the same to buy anything. Yang Ming, how can you agree? Zhao Ying saw that Yang Ming just nodded and said yes. She was a little anxious. What are you doing? Why do you want to buy a house and a car? My mother is being unreasonable. Do you believe it? Yang Ming shrugged and smiled bitterly. He didn't speak. I mean, what can I say? My current identity is your boyfriend. I can't be too calculative, right? Ying, what's wrong with you? Isn't your mother doing this for your own good? When Wang Guifan heard Zhao Ying's words, she was angry. It is said that a grown girl can't be kept at home. Are you not putting your mother in your eyes now? Although Zhao Ying had some opinions about her mother, she was still her biological mother. She still couldn't bear such an unfilial label. Moreover, Zhao Ying actually understood her mother's bitterness. In the early years, the living conditions of the family were not bad. Her mother was a driver of a large group of public institutions, and her father was a coach of the City Martial Arts Center. In the early 1990s, this was a good job. However, with the disbandment of the large group, her mother was out of work, and her father was only receiving a fixed salary every month. She watched other people's lives prosper, but she had to be busy all day for money. It was inevitable that there would be some resentment in her heart. She began to be calculative about her life. When she was at home, she often complained about her father, Zhao Dequan. After he retired from the army, why did he have to work in the martial arts center? There were so many jobs to choose from. There was the police station and the factory security department. Her comrade who went to the police station was now a sector-level cadre. Her comrade who went to the factory was now the head of the XX Group security department with a monthly salary of more than 10,000. However, the wages in the martial arts center were the lowest, and the benefits were not good. Young people nowadays went to the gym. Who would go to the martial arts center? How could this make Wang Guifan feel balanced? Zhao Dequan was an honest person, but it did not mean that he was as snobbish as Wang Guifan. Although sometimes he would not argue with Wang Guifan, at this moment, he also felt that Wang Guifan was too much. How can she ask for a car and a house on the first meeting? What is this? Is it like selling her daughter? So, Zhao Dequan couldn't help but say, "Little Yang, don't take it seriously. Your aunt is just joking with you. She wants to test whether your feelings for Ying are real. You also know that the hearts of parents are pitiful." What are you talking about? Wang Guifan saw that the good thing was ruined by her husband. She was annoyed immediately. Shut up. Zhao Dequan did not retreat this time. He said loudly with a red neck, "Wang Guifan. You will lead your daughter astray sooner or later. What kind of messy thoughts are you having? Isn't it better to let Ying marry into the bank?" Zhao Dequan was angry. Originally, he wanted to use a joke to dissolve the atmosphere in front of him. However, Wang Guifan did not appreciate it. She didn't give him a way out. This made Zhao Dequan very angry. How could Yang Ming not see the key to the matter? He already knew what kind of person Wang Guifan was. Naturally, he wouldn't think that she was joking just now. However, at the moment, Yang Ming's impression of Zhao Dequan was still very good. Originally, Yang Ming was puzzled. With Wang Guifan's greedy character, how could she teach such an excellent girl like Zhao Ying? It turned out that Zhao Ying was like her father. "Uncle, auntie, don't argue." Yang Ming persuaded. "Originally, I also planned to buy a house and a car. If you don't believe me, you can ask Zhao Ying. Isn't that the case?" As Yang Ming said this, he winked at Zhao Ying. Seeing that Yang Ming was so considerate of her, Zhao Ying was very moved. She couldn't insist anymore, so she nodded and said, "Yes, you look. You talk too much." After Wang Guifan listened, she suddenly smiled. AI. Zhao Dequan sighed. He wasn't stupid. How could he not see the shock that Yang Ming showed when Wang Guifan proposed to buy a house and a car? However, at this moment, he felt that Yang Ming was a good young man. He would take care of everyone's face. "Little Yang, what does your family do?" Wang Guifan didn't let go of Yang Ming. "Doing some business." Yang Ming didn't say too much. "Then, do you know the Sui family in Mount Jing?" Wang Guifan said this just because she felt that some big shots in a place should know each other. "Oh, I was a junior high school classmate with a person named Sui Guangqi. I'm not familiar with the others," Yang Ming said faintly. He didn't want to mention the Sui family. Zhou Jiejia's matter and the Sui family's wedding last time made Yang Ming not have a good impression of the Sui family. "Oh. Sui Guangqi. Isn't that Sui Guangheng, the younger brother of my cousin-in-law?" Wang Guifan didn't hear the indifference in Yang Ming's tone, and she tried to get close to him. "Cousin-in-law?" Yang Ming frowned. "How is this related to the Sui family? What is this messy and complicated relationship?"